Hello, YouTube. Welcome to my Pokemon Colosseum any percent run from February. At least the best PB that I got during the whole month. So, the way this run is starting off, I'm trying to press A on a very specific frame. This frame is... It's one frame out of 60 frames per second. And the frame is different every time. So... we do a lot of pre-run preparation. It takes anywhere from like a couple minutes to upwards of like 10 minutes to get a RNG seed that lets us hit a different frame every single attempt to get an Espeon that looks at least kind of like this. No Espeons are going to be like exactly the same. But generally they will look pretty close to this one. Stats on the webcam area. The special attack is going to be a minimum of 30. It's always going to be a plus special attack nature. The two natures it can be are rash and modest. The speed is always going to be at least a 27 IV. This one happens to be 31. The defense is always going to be at least an 11 IV. And everything else is kind of just like up in the air. It can be whatever. At the start here, I'm just checking my Espeons, or my Umbreon's trainer ID. It doesn't matter which one. You may be wondering why Umbreon isn't RNG manipped, and that's because we replace it as quickly as we can with a Quilava. And the Quilava that I happen to get is also here. I will go into a lot more detail about Quilava once we like get to that point, which is like 20 minutes into the run. But yeah. Also, I will point out my input display is not currently being shown. It pops up around like 10 minutes into this run. I think I had it minimized and oops. That's fine. I still have all of my stats in a giant spreadsheet of like damage rolls and damage calculations that we had for the entire run. So for specific fights, I'll be able to go into more detail about like why RNG worked out the way it did, how I played around it. Also for this run in particular, I'm comparing to a balanced PB. What that means is instead of comparing to my actual PB, it's spreading out the time save for like what is a good run based on live split history. So it's not exact. The end time is always the same as the PB, but the splits are spread out in such a way that you're expected to generally like be able to save time on every split. And the reason I did this was because my previous PB before this one, all of the time save was centered in like 2 or 3 splits, and everything else was like a gold. And the time save was huge. My sum of best here, you can see at the bottom under for best possible time at the beginning, is a 332. Obviously the run that I'm showing you is a 344. A lot of that comes down to the RNG that I'm going to be pointing out. I probably lost like anywhere from 3 to 4 minutes to just RNG that there was nothing I could do about it. It's just, that is what you come to expect past a point. These first few fights are also just kind of like whatever. Everything until you kind of just get Quilava. You're going to be taunting with Umbreon. You're going to be using Confusion. There's the input display. You're going to be using Confusion with Espeon. It's kind of just like... It's what you expect. The taunts, in the first 3 fights, the taunt can actually matter. It can save you time depending on what the Pokemon decides to use. I think in 2 out of 3 cases, it actually did matter. So. I think in this fight is the one that does... I think the Zigzagoon tried to use Tail Whip and it failed. I don't want to... The cat is meowing at the door, but... because he's not getting attention. However, if I let him in, he will jump on my desk. And he will probably move my mouse, and I don't want to have that happen. I don't want to have anything touch the mouse or keyboard right now while I'm recording this. So I'd like to just do this in one shot. It's a nearly 4-hour run. Umbreon uses Taunt. I think this Whismur uses Pound. Yeah. The Whismur can also use Howl. If it uses Howl because it's taunted, it will fail, and that is obviously faster than Pound. A lot of these sort of situations, a lot of the time save in this game, in fact, comes from just how long these battle animations take. If a fight takes an extra turn, that can be anywhere from like 20 seconds, 40 seconds, just for one turn of a fight. So every little bit really matters, and you really need you need a good Quilava with a good nature. The minimum special attack for a Quilava theoretically is like 16 for an IV, and you don't want a minus nature. You obviously want a neutral or special attack boosting nature, and that's just to make fights like more consistent. Because past a point, the worse your Quilava is, the more you're relying on damage rolls, which you can finish a run with that. You definitely can. Some of my early runs had pretty bad Quilavas, but because of how heavy the RNG already is, ideally you just don't want to deal with that. You kind of just want to get a good Quilava and like go. We name Rui just A because, yeah, one character, letter, etc. Wes is actually Wes because I believe selecting his name is just like part of the RNG manip. I don't think you might not be able to do it by naming him. Otherwise, I think we would. The manip, the way it is built, is very, very specific. So just say that. There's obviously a lot of text mashing. You can see me just kind of like mashing A and B to advance text, trying to alternate them, sometimes pressing them at the same time, like whatever. You're trying to hit like the minimum time for these text boxes to be up. A lot of this early game is very straightforward. Don't have a ton to talk about until we actually get the Quilava. I guess I can mention it here that because chat is asking, Quilava the best out of the 3? Yes. Because your other options are Bayleaf and Croconaw. This is a Gen 3 game, so if you don't know what that means, your physical and special attacks are based on the type of attack. And Feraligatr is a primarily physical attacker, where its main damaging moves will be like water attacks, like an Ice Beam, Ice Punch, which are all special moves. So Feraligatr is just unfortunately bad in these games. I think it is the second best. I think because Meganium's offensive stats are terrible. Typhlosion is just kind of the best one. Typhlosion will have fire attacks. 2 fire attacks in particular, Flame Wheel and Fire Blast. And I think if you understand Pokemon, you know that Fire Blast is a move that could cause issues in certain fights, depending on how you need to rely on it. This is the last fight where Umbreon actually uses Taunt. The Taunt goes into the Coughing. The Coughing can use Tackle or Poison Gas. Obviously, when you taunt it, you want it to use Poison Gas, so it immediately fails. Otherwise, you have to watch the Tackle animation. All these little things. I will say, so this run that finished was not my best pace into the end. Because the PB I had before this was on a 239 pace into Evis, who is the final boss of the game. And disasters. The fact that the run before this even finished is incredible. Even finished as a PB. It took me about a little over a week to get another PB after that last one, which is what the one I'm doing this for is. So the 347.57 and the 344.08 that I'm like showing, the time gap between those was like 8 days or something. No, I think it was like 8 days, yeah. It's, this game is not kind. Let me put it that way. Lots of RNG, lots of, like, the manip is already hard enough. Because you need to hit that 1/60th of a second. So I use a tool called Flow Timer, which it counts down and then it gives you, I set it to 400 milliseconds. So every 400 milliseconds it will beep, and on the 5th beep is when you press A on the frame. So doing that consistently is very difficult. I'm buying 33 X specials. 32 would be more optimal for money, but the extra I kind of just like to have. Gives you a couple more options. That's really all there is to say there. We're gonna go buy our Pokeball, go get our Pokeballs that we'll be using for the entire run from Outskirts Stand, which will be 1 Great Ball and 4 Pokeballs. So we get 5 for free. I sell 1 to then buy a Great Ball with. And that Great Ball will be used for 2 catches. The Pokeball will be used for 1. And the 3 Pokemon that we catch will be all that we have to catch for the entire game. You may be confused why I said the Great Ball is used for 2 catches, and we'll get into that in another, like, 6 minutes. I think it's a fairly well-known glitch in this game, but I'll wait to explain it. I don't think I was saying anything in particularly important there. The Espeon, I guess it's worth mentioning. The hidden power is on there, and it is important. It is manipped. It is a grass type hidden power for coverage options because we're using a Quilava, and otherwise Pokemon that are like water types, rock types would be very difficult to deal with. So the grass type coverage is very important, and the power of 69 or 70 is just for damage roll purposes. I think this is the first set of fights that are like kind of interesting because they can be different between runs. You can save pretty significant time on these 2 fights depending on Umbreon. I don't have my Umbreon stats in front of me, but I'm pretty sure it was fairly low special attack. Your Umbreon needs to be effectively perfect to have a good, like, to even have like a chance at bite getting kills in these fights. So we Confusion the Whismur and we bite the Lotad. A bite crit would kill the Lotad, I think, with almost any Umbreon, almost. But we're mostly just hoping for a flinch. Because that would save Lotad's very, very slow attacks. Lotad likes to use Absorb, which Lotad has a bit of a wind-up to its attack already, and Absorb is on top of that incredibly slow. So you always hope for a flinch here, and you're probably not going to get it. Yeah, here's the Absorb animation. So you can just kind of see the time ticking away during this animation. If you got a flinch, you save all of that time. And then you go for a Return with Espeon, because Return is a faster animation than Confusion, and it makes up for like the little bit of menuing to go over to it. But this next fight here is where we get our first Shadow Pokemon and our kind of introduction to the mechanic. of Shadow Pokemon. So on this Duskull that Treadly uses, Bite can actually OHKO it without a crit if your Umbreon is effectively perfect. So the likelihood of that happening is pretty rare. Also, you can still always get a crit. You can always get a flinch to save a little bit of time. Those like little things do add up to in the beginning. The 1849 gold that I have is like, it's pretty good. You can't get much better. You can get better, but you're typically probably going to get around a 19-minute something split for Quilava. A 20-minute Quilava is not uncommon. It really isn't. The fact that my balance said 1934, I was like, man, this is not. Because I had gotten pretty lucky with Quilava catches. It's like, this is not common. So we throw the Pokeball here with Espeon's turn at Makuhita, and we bite Duskull. Bite just happens to be faster than Confusion. In this Pokeball throw, Makuhita is guaranteed. It cannot fail. It will always capture Makuhita. 100% catch rate. Unfortunately, the other two catches we have to do are not even close to that, so I will... spoilers, the Quilava and Metatite, when they're both at full HP, are a 41% chance to catch with a Great Ball. And we, of course, do not damage them, because that would be slower than just getting lucky. Damaging the Quilava especially would be really bad, just because getting lucky with a 41% is not insane. But also we would have to then heal Quilava after, which if you can avoid that. I was mashing too much here. Lost a few seconds. I needed to just press A, but I was mashing A and B to advance text. Remembering when there is dialogue is a thing. Alright, so here's the first glitch of the game. The first actual glitch. The first of two. So with... I guess I'll wait a little bit. Rui has to say, that's a shadow Pokemon. But with Umbreon's turn, we're going to throw our Great Ball at Quilava. And then with Espeon's turn, we're going to swap the Great Ball in the Pokeball's position. And then Confusion Grimer. But by swapping the position of the item that you used on the first Pokemon's turn, you don't actually use the ball. The game just doesn't know how to handle that and just lets you throw the ball and doesn't take it away from you. Which is great, because that means that we aren't necessarily required to get it in one throw. Because it is a 41%, we're just going to keep throwing the Great Ball in this way at Quilava until it catches. This decision here, because Umbreon's accuracy was dropped, I sometimes do go for just like killing Spoink immediately. But because of the chance that Bite would miss, I decided to just throw the Great Ball at Quilava and then use Return twice on Spoink. If Quilava had used like Shadow Rush or Dig or Flame Wheel, I very likely would have just killed Spoink on that turn. Because Spoink's animations for attacks are pretty slow. That was a second turn catch, which is also very good. So Spoink will probably use Psy Wave most of the time. If it targets Umbreon, that's not actually that bad, but it can target Espeon, and then you have to watch it do the animation, and it's like 10 seconds. So it's kind of just like a judgment call, I feel, on whether you kill Spoink turn 2 or try and keep throwing balls at Quilava. If you get Quilava second turn, obviously it's better to have thrown the ball, but if you get Quilava like third or fourth turn, you probably should have killed Spoink turn 2. There's so many, there's like little things like that, like whatever. And here I'm going to be taking a little bit of time. Was pretty slow at doing this. But I'm going to be moving Quilava to slot 1 and checking its stats. So when I'm doing this, I'm using a tool, putting in all of Quilava's stats, HP, attack, defense, special defense, speed, and gender. And getting basically the printout that you see below me. I think I had like a typo in here and put in one of the stats wrong, so it didn't actually find the Quilava right away. If you can do that faster, obviously you save time. Like, it's just what it is. You're gonna save time by getting better at inputting that quickly. But yeah, we're just on our way to Pirate Town. During this process, I am effectively planning the Purification route for Quilava. And also putting all of Quilava's stats into the damage calc spreadsheet. So, the damage calc spreadsheet, you put in all of the IVs for your Quilava, you put in its nature. Same for Espeon. And then for every single Pokemon in the speedrun that you fight, the spreadsheet tells you, does Quilava outspeed? Or speed tie or whatever. And then what attack from every Pokemon will do the most damage? So, all of this, like, lets you make decisions, basically, based on this spreadsheet, saying, okay, well, they can kill Quilava with this, they can kill Espeon with this, so we play around that in such a way that, okay, we know that they're going to attack Quilava because they can kill Quilava. Most of the time that's true for the AI in this game, past a point. I say past a point because early on it's not necessarily the case that they will choose the strongest option. They're fairly random for the first hour. But eventually that means we can do things like protect with Typhlosion or use dig to get out of the way. And we'll be doing that a lot, especially by the end. This first fight with Quilava is also like terrifying. Kale's Furret. Okay, so I guess I can mention this. Shadow Pokemon, in general, like this Furret, have random stats. All Shadow Pokemon have random stats. Every other Pokemon in the game is always the same. So, because this Furret has random stats, we don't necessarily know the exact damage ranges. I think the way the spreadsheet does them for Shadow Pokemon is like averages. Or maybe even like worst case. So we try and use Confusion, ideally twice. Ideally we kill Furret turn 2. Furret outspeeds Quilava. And then Quilava enters Hyper Mode. If Furret didn't outspeed Quilava, that would be fine. Also, Ralts using Imprison here means Espeon can't use Confusion. And Espeon has to use Return. So the idea that I went for here was to simply call Quilava. My Quilava is a hasty nature. And the way that the Purification route works, which I'll go into in a little bit with more detail, this Quilava doesn't technically need extra calls. So if I never used call in this Quilava, it would purify at a rate that was like perfectly fine. However, I wanted to be able to heal Quilava, and I'm obviously like confused here, not sure what exactly I want to do, so I used Super Potion on Quilava so it didn't like die to a Shadow Rush. Obviously for it targeted Espeon, which is fine. Quilava entered Hyper Mode again, which means I effectively lost that turn. But because Quilava is still like fine, I guess, I just kind of went for the Shadow Rush. I probably didn't have to heal Espeon here, but the strength from Furret into Quilava. If that had gone into Espeon, the run was dead. If I didn't heal. So this fight is so terrible because of this Furret. What I go for here is just to kill both Pokemon. Return into Furret is a guaranteed. Shadow Rush into Ralts is another guarantee. And then the last two Pokemon that Kale has are Seedot and Machop, which are not an issue. Seedot is going to either go for Rock Smash or Bide. You see my Quilava is at 4 HP after the Shadow Rush, so I have another decision to make. The recoil damage from Shadow Rush would kill Quilava. Rock Smash would also kill Quilava. I cannot heal because it is in Hyper Mode. So, doing a second call here is what I ended up going with. So, its Purification bar is very low. A bar and a half already gone. So, Quilava starts gaining experience after the second bar is depleted. So Shadow Pokemon, all 5 bars do something different. When the first bar is gone, you get your first move back. When the second bar is gone, you start gaining experience that you will acquire all at once on Purification. The third bar is your third move, the fourth bar is your fourth move, and the fifth bar lets it be purified. This is not early enough for Quilava dying here to actually matter. Other than the fact that since it was in Hyper Mode, if I didn't call it, it would lose Hyper Mode anyway. So I took the opportunity to give it an extra call. This is technically 2 extra calls now over what this Quilava even needs. And that means that it's going to be gaining experience much, much earlier than it normally would. For a hasty Quilava with 0 calls, it is expected to start gaining experience on Mirez, who is the 4th trainer in Pyrite Colosseum. With 1 call, it's expected to gain experience on Vilch, who is the 3rd trainer in Pyrite Colosseum. And because I have 2 extra calls, my Quilava depletes 2 bars by the end of the first fight. It's hard to tell if it's like exactly on 2 bars or like it's on like just a sliver. I'd have to like take out a microscope, but the point being, it gained experience 1 or 2 fights earlier than it should have. Which is good, because that is a little bit of extra experience to offset the later parts of this run, where Typhlosion is going to be losing a ton of experience that it is supposed to have. It helps a little bit early on, and then it quickly stops mattering because the early game experience is so small anyway. This is just a little side quest. We have to get the gear back. Anything that's not battles in this run is very straightforward. It's just a matter of knowing where to go. There's not really anything you can do to speed it up. Just like have good lines go and, you know, ideally at full speed in a direction without having to stray from the path too much. That's about it. There are some purification routes for specific natures where they purify quickly for being in your party and walking around. So some natures you actually do spend a little bit of time, around 10 seconds extra, just walking around in this segment, which is worth like noting slightly. This is technically one of those natures where if you do not call it at all, then you do put in a little bit of extra time walking around. Also, the chances of entering hyper mode changes for each nature. And every bar depleted also changes your chances of entering hyper mode. So there's a lot here that it all adds up, and it all, like, it's so much to take in for the first hour. There's just so much. That's about all I can say about that. The first hour of this run is very learning intensive, and the rest of it is very RNG heavy. So I do think it is a cool run, but it is also not so much difficult as it is just like kind of getting lucky and playing the odds in such a way to hope that you chose the option that works out, that ends up working out. There are a few times where I will switch over to PB split comparison just to like show, because my early game in PB did lose a lot of time in this segment, previous PB to this, due to a very slow purification nature. Also these fights here, this first fight against Hawks, if you are in hyper mode, it's very fast. But I think this will also come into play a few times where Quilava's physical attack IV is a 1. Shadow Rush is a physical move. So when you're in hyper mode, Shadow Rush has a 91% chance to crit. There's our hyper mode. So a 91% crit rate should do a lot of damage more often than not. This poison proc is really annoying. Poison status is incredibly slow. Synchronize makes it so much worse. Because it doesn't even kill the Sandshrew. Shadow Rush into Barboach, return into Sandshrew. Just to get rid of it. For most Quilavas, this Shadow Rush would kill. Let me look at this really quick. It also didn't crit. Where is Barboach? Yeah. So even if it did crit, that Shadow Rush only had a 50% chance to kill. But I hit the 9% to not crit anyway, so... things add up. The confusion there was a misclick. Technically, return is better. Like I said earlier, return would have been faster. But also my Espeon's physical attack is fairly low. I didn't trust a lot of return ranges around like 50%. So sometimes you just kind of have to get lucky in regards to that. This next fight against Tistler is Natu and Meditite. So the normal strat is to Confusion Meditite twice and Shadow Rush crit kill Natu. This Shadow Rush crit is a 56% chance to kill. So if you don't have hyper mode, you would double into Meditite and kill Natu on the next turn. A lot of this changes a little bit depending on if you have hyper mode or not. There is also a 1 in 256 chance that your Pokemon will exit hyper mode on its own. And if it does so, you will not get any purification bar for it and you lose a turn. A 1 in 256 chance that happens. So, obviously I got the 56% on Natu. Which helped a lot for that fight. The third fight here is Vilch. Vilch has 3 Pokemon. You're doing kind of the same thing. You are trying to get crits from Shadow Rush to kill Cacnea and Vulpix. And you are going to double into Electrike with Confusion. Again, if you still don't have Hyper Mode, which can happen, the fight's going to play a little bit differently. You're going to double Cacnea, and then it's probably going to be a 3-turn fight. Potentially a 4-turn fight if you didn't have Hyper Mode coming in and you got it on like turn 1 through 3. Because Espeon cannot one-shot anything here. This Shadow Rush on Cacnea is a 50% when it crits. And it worked. And on the Vulpix, Shadow Rush is an 88%. Electrike goes for Howl, pretty much always turn 1. It can use Quick Attack turn 1, but it usually goes for Howl. Here, Vulpix and Electrike can both use Quick Attack, and it's just slow, and it just wastes your time. I think Vulpix also has Ember, and Electrike could choose to Howl, I guess. I usually would just Quick Attack anyway, turn 2. Yeah, the return kills, and then we go for the Shadow Rush into Vulpix, which, like I said, is 88%. You see how fast that bar is going down too. That's purely because of a hasty nature and the 2 calls from earlier. Quilava's gonna get Flame Wheel pretty early, which is good because there's some fights where Flame Wheel can be used very efficiently. And this is the final battle of the Colosseum. We're also going to be doing a glitch here, but I should preface this by saying, in Gen 3 Pokemon games, during double battles, X items are used on the Pokemon whose turn you use it on. If I use an X item with Quilava, it gets used on Quilava. If I use an X item on Espeon, it gets used on Espeon. However, if you use an item that does not have an effect, like full heal on an Espeon without a status, it changes the target of the X item you are using. So this Goldeen is a 50% chance to kill with a +1 confusion, and I didn't hit the range. But like, we're going to be using that a ton in this run. Just an absolute ton in this run. It lets Quilava's turn, when it otherwise wouldn't really do anything, buff Espeon. And sometimes vice versa, although that's very rare. We typically will use the full heals to change the target of X Special onto Espeon. We do want to make sure we always have a full heal. Revive can also work, because obviously if Espeon's alive, you can't revive it. It's not going to do anything. Shadow Rush into Magnemite here is also guaranteed to never kill. So I doubled into Delibird specifically because Delibird is a... Oh, I didn't double into Delibird in this run. Okay, I lied. Delibird is a 9/16 range. Typically I do double it, but I think because I had Hyper Mode, I didn't, and Delibird hit itself in Confusion anyway. Confusion has a 10% chance to cause confusion, and it happens all the time, and usually I don't want it to happen. But, like, this is a perfectly fine Fire Colosseum. I missed both ranges on Mirez, which are the Goldeen and the Delibird. One being a 50-50, the other being a 56%. So, it happens, you know. It does lose probably... The ranges there probably lost about 30 seconds. A lot of the time loss was to the Furret fight. Just kind of being weird. The fight with Kale. And now we're going into the Aerith and Firma segment, or the Firma segment. This is the Pyrite building, specifically, which is just a gauntlet of fights. This is just a very long gauntlet of fights, which is honestly most of what Colosseum is. There's very little actual, like, movement stuff happening. It is primarily moving from one fight to the next, and they're usually not very far apart. So this first fight with Nor is a Shadow Yanma. So this Yanma, I believe, there's no way in hell. I think this Yanma actually outspeeds my Espeon. Maybe? Or it like speed ties Espeon and wins the speed tie on turn 1 or something. Maybe that was a different run. We'll see in a second here. It usually goes for Shadow Rush or Sonic Boom. It also has Supersonic, which it typically doesn't use. We double into the Yanma. I think Confusion procs here, and that just wastes my time. Yep. The Shadow Rush is guaranteed to kill on the second hit. Surprised that it usually doesn't take that much damage from Confusion, so I guess this Yanma had very low special defense this time. But the rest of this fight is very straightforward. The Pineco doesn't... The Pineco can use Bide, and you usually want it to use Bide, but I think this one like tackled multiple times, which is just slow. So we doubled in Kata slot, because I think it's been pretty obvious, but in Gen 3 double battles, when you KO a Pokemon like this Nincada with Confusion, the next Pokemon comes in immediately, and not at the end of the turn, like in later games. And this means that Shadow Rush goes straight into this Surskit, which is guaranteed to kill as long as it crits. I say guaranteed, but this was not a guarantee on this Quilava. This was a 56% chance. Oh no, I'm looking at Flame Wheel. No, it was guaranteed. Never mind. I'm lying. Lying. Straight up lying. There are a few spots where Shadow Rush is like super guaranteed to kill, and it just... Confusion. That confusion range on Pineco is 56%. Although I feel like it kills most of the time. Like, all the time. But anyway. The next fight here against the roller skate kid is two ranges. Two actually pretty good ranges, if I'm being honest. The confusion range on Talo is 94%, so more likely than not to hit it. And most of the time, for most Quilavas, the Shadow Rush crit range on Hoot Hoot is also very high. This Shadow Rush crit range on Hoot Hoot is a 44%, so you kind of just, you don't expect to hit it. Really anything below like 80%, you're kind of just like, it's probably not going to work. It'd be fast if it does. It would save like 20 seconds if it works, but probably not going to. Yeah, I do make a pretty big mistake like right after this fight. I was not paying attention to the health of my Pokemon closely enough. Especially with this Hoot Hoot not dying on this turn. Spoilers. The Talo dies. That's usually what happens. But also usually the Hoot Hoot dies as well. So I took some extra damage. And I was not paying close attention. or close enough attention to Quilava, because at 35 HP, I definitely would have taken this opportunity to heal. But we're gonna take this and go straight into the next fight. Which is not a good idea. This actually would have been fine if he didn't lead with Carvana. I actually would not have been punished. But Carvana does a lot of damage with Thrash. Carvana sees a guaranteed kill on Quilava. And I believe I do outspeed. But you need to use the X special. So I think what I could have done here, what I should have done instead, after like, I should have not followed the fight exactly. I should have used Shadow Rush into Carvana on turn 1 and probably use the X special with Espeon, and then next turn done something different. So the Carvana is locked into Thrash. It's the only Pokemon on the field that like does anything. And I do lose 2 Pokemon worth of experience here on Quilava, but I still have so much that it doesn't really matter. The Carvana cannot kill Espeon with Thrash unless it crit, so it's not really like a threat. Makuhita entering Hyper Mode there is a shame because that's that's really slow. But I think Return here, yeah, Return almost killed. And then what happens to the Carvana? It does hit itself and kill itself. Okay. So at this point, I have to go back down. The option strat is to, you can either heal after the Taylor Hoot Hoot fight, or you can heal after Gear, who's after Geets here. Usually you don't heal after Geets. Usually you'd heal after the next fight. We also use this as the chance to deposit Umbreon. The Umbreon deposit is actually very much required here. For reasons we'll get into in a little bit when we fight Firma. We need to have 3 Pokemon and not more. But because my Quilava was so far ahead on Purification, even though it died in Hyper Mode and didn't get the Hyper Mode Purification, it's still far enough along that it actually has Flame Wheel. And Flame Wheel is guaranteed to kill on Magnemite. I forget what I did here. Oh, I still doubled Remoraid. Remoraid is a 3/8 chance to kill with Confusion. So, more often than not, it will not kill. The YOLO strat could have been to save some time to go for Confusion and Flame Wheel split targets. But that is kind of risky. So instead I just go for a Flame Wheel here and call with Espeon. So the call with Espeon is just a way to waste the turn, because otherwise it's faster than Quilava and I don't need it to use Return or Confusion. And Helping Hand is just slow, also not needed. Plumo's guaranteed. An Ackman here is a pretty straightforward fight, honestly. In a perfect world, Voltorb would use like Sonic Boom or Shockwave into Quilava and we'd have Blaze. That doesn't happen. That's a perfect world, and we don't live in a perfect world. The Voltorb's AI is random, and looking at the chart here, what I could have done, the Voltorb is a range for Espeon at level 29, or level 30 is guaranteed to kill with Confusion. I think I could have gone for the range onto Voltorb, and then if it worked, hit my Quilava into Confusion with Espeon to kill the Electrike with Flame Wheel, but that's like 5 steps further we need to go. Also hindsight. Hindsight, that would have been fast if you hit the range. If you didn't, you would have lost time overall anyway. 7/8 is not a terrible range, but that is a risk I could have taken. Because here, if you don't have Blaze on Quilava, the Flame Wheel does not kill Ladybug. You need either Blaze or Hyper Mode. A Hyper Mode crit from Shadow Rush will kill Ladybug, and a Blaze Flame Wheel will kill Ladybug. But if you don't have either, it's just kind of unfortunate. Because Espeon cannot solo Swablu either. So this fight is fairly slow. Obviously a crit would have helped speed things up a little bit. I think what I do here is I double Swablu. Oh, I Flame Wheel Swablu and I return the Ladybug. That also makes sense. Do I use this turn to hit Quilava into Blaze? I'm pretty sure that's what I did. A Blaze Flame Wheel would finish off Swablu here. Also, it used... Right, because it used Growl, which means that Return is doing less damage. So I use that as my opportunity to say, okay, I don't know what Return is going to do to Quilava, but with a -1 Espeon, it's probably not going to do insane damage, even though this Quilava's defenses are pretty low. So now Quilava is in Blaze, and we are going into the fight with a Snorunt and a Spheal. So this next fight is typically fairly scary. However, it's scary because of the Spheal. The Spheal's AI is completely random. And its Water Gun would do 30 to 36 damage to Quilava. Most of the time, you would actually heal Quilava here. And kill Spheal on turn 2. But I chose to double up on Spheal, because Snorunt's damage, it really just can't do anything. Snorunt's biggest damaging move, I think, is Bite. And because Bite from Snorunt is not going to kill, it's not going to use it. I believe the Snorunt is not random AI like the Spheal is, but I would need someone to correct me. Even here, at 16 HP, Bite still won't kill Quilava. So I just Flame Wheel the Snorunt on turn 2 and call Espeon. Espeon is not guaranteed to kill Snorunt, so I just don't even bother. Whereas Quilava, this Flame Wheel kills even without Blaze. And the big reason that I wanted Blaze is for the next fight. Not even for this fight, not even for the Ladybug fight, where it would have been really nice, but for the next fight here. The Oddish on this trainer, Oddish has like really high special defense apparently, but without Blaze, the Oddish kill is only at 38%, but with Blaze it's guaranteed. Confusion is guaranteed on all of her Pokemon. So I just want the Flame Wheel to kill Oddish, basically. It's really is all that goes into this. And then we heal up Quilava after this fight. A very minor optimization. I should have healed Quilava in the fight. I think I mentioned that when I was... after I'd already clicked in my moves. I'm just basically mashing A here. But it would have been optimal to use the Super Potion on Quilava this turn instead of out of battle. And then just Confusion kill. The reason to potion there is because the next fight, the Tentacool, can do 42 to 50 damage with Bubble Beam. Also, this menuing is awkward, but Espeon does not have a guaranteed kill into Tentacool with Confusion, so we actually use Return twice. And a Flame Wheel is guaranteed on Cacnea inside or outside of Blaze. Because I don't have the calcs in front of me for Flame Wheel into Quilava, or Flame Wheel into Tentacool, that is technically an option. And I think it is optimal if you know that it is going to kill with Return and Flame Wheel. But I don't have the numbers, and I didn't trust myself to go for a strat like that. Cacnea's attacks are pretty slow also. Also, this Tentacool just went for Acid. Because it went for Acid, I was able to save my Super Potions and use just regular potions to heal up. Which is nice for my overall potion count, for sure. Because going into Wreath and Firma, we need Quilava. Well, Quilava doesn't need to be at full health. I didn't technically have to heal Quilava, but Espeon not being at full health is, to say the least, sketchy. And I just 80 out of 82, close enough. Because Espeon is going to be taking a couple hits, particularly on Firma. Wreath really doesn't get to do anything. They gave her the lowest level shadow Pokemon in the entire game, and it's a Remoraid. I'm pretty sure level 20, outside of the Plusle, is the lowest level Pokemon in the entire game. I'd have to verify that, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. I know at least, like, for what you encounter in a speedrun, that's true. So, Flame Wheel into Spinarak, Confusion into Remoraid, easy turn 1. And then Love Disc comes out. I technically did a suboptimal Wreath fight here, because I wanted to conserve HP on Quilava. And the reason I wanted to do that was because there is a very, very small chance that Bubble Beam does not OHKO this Quilava. It was like a 1 in 8 chance. So I conserve HP and don't take the Shadow Rush recoil damage, and I use Dig instead. Love Disc is guaranteed just to use Agility twice, because it can't kill with Water Gun. So it's stupid. So I use Dig to not take Shadow Rush recoil damage. Like, it's a 1 in 8 chance that Quilava doesn't die on turn 1. And theoretically, that's like fine. It's a little bit safer. But this Firma fight goes very south for reasons that you don't necessarily expect. So on turn 1 here, we are going to buff Espeon with the next special and use Confusion into Apom. Apom here is a 9 and 16 range to KO. 9 out of 16 times this Confusion KOs Apom. The Mantine is the scariest threat, by far. But the Apom will use agility on turn 1 if it doesn't die. The crit actually could matter there. There's no way to know for sure, but more likely than not, the crit did matter. And then she sends up Furret. Furret is a 50-50 to use either Defense Curl or Quick Attack. It will use Helping Hand when Yanma is on the field, but it will not Helping Hand the Mantine. So, this is expected. Palava dies, we send up Makuhita. Makuhita should take 2 Bubble Beams to kill. So we use these 2 turns to buff Espeon more, so that Espeon can kill Mantine. So, Espeon uses Confusion. It crits. Mantine dies on turn... What is this, 3? Turn 2? It's turn 2. It is not supposed to die there. And because Mantine died there, she only has Furret and Yanma. And the experience for Mantine was split in half when Espeon was supposed to get all of it. The experience route for Espeon is very, very specific to hit level 44 at the latest or at the earliest possible moment in order to boost it to 47 and learn Psychic. So, I kill Makuhita because I need it gone. +2 Espeon I know is guaranteed good enough to handle Yanma for it. So I've effectively saved the next special, but I've lost some experience. And I need to make up that experience somewhere. So for like a while here, I'm like trying to figure out how to make up the experience. It's pretty straightforward how it's gonna work, but it's also tough. Because the more experience you have to make up, the less experience Quilava / Typhlosion is going to get. Quilava has already lost 2 Pokemon worth of experience. It has a little bit extra. It has some extra experience from at least Tissler, potentially some from Hawks, but I would need to go back and look at the Purification. More likely than not, it's not quite there on Hawks, but Quilava at least has Tissler to make up for at least some of the Carvana Barboach experience that it's missing. And it has the Apom experience that it doesn't always get. Because of... that's a range. But it is going to miss out on experience later, guaranteed, in order for me to make it up on Espeon. But we can't worry about that right now. Espeon is also down a little bit for, like, this entire cave segment. Espeon is missing around, like, 170-ish experience points. Which I don't think ends up mattering because of how experience lines up. It doesn't end up mattering here. It does end up mattering when we get to Agot Village. But right here it doesn't. So we're going to buff Espeon again. We're gonna just... this fight's fairly straightforward. We're just gonna get rid of Quillfish. That critical hit was actually like the first instance of truly bad RNG. Everything else was just like very minor, or I could have played it differently and could have done better in a couple spots, but maybe saved like a turn. That is the first piece of RNG that is causing me to have to reroute a little bit of the experience on the fly, and lose out on what Quilava has going for it. Also, this is dumb. I could have had a counter for like how many times I missed moves. I really should have thought of doing that. The crit helps. The crit matters. You're supposed to Flame Wheel Confusion, and then, or Flame Wheel, then Flame Wheel Confusion, and the Confusion misses because of Sand Attack. So at least the Flame Wheel crit on turn 1, so I can just Flame Wheel kill on the second turn on Linoon. So it wasn't actually a turn slower there. Just was really dumb. Really dumb miss. But I didn't take any damage in that fight, which is good. Because if you do, the next fight can be a little sketchy. It can be sketchy for many reasons. I do grab these hyper potions. These hyper potions are kind of just, they're sitting here a little out of the way, but having a couple extra potions, I feel, on a run like this is fairly good. Just some extra safety. And then we go up here and we go to this guy. This is Twan. And he has our last Pokemon, the Metatite. Metatite, like Quilava earlier, is a 41% chance for the Great Ball to catch. On turn 1, no damage, etc., etc. 41%. Metatite has Shadow Rush to recoil damage itself, and it has High Jump Kick, which if it misses, does a lot of self-damage. So, even more so than Quilava, the risk that you take for using an attack on Metatite an hour into this run, not generally worth it. You can choose to use Return or Confusion with Espeon into the Metatite slot to effectively guarantee a turn 2 catch if it breaks out. However, if you were to crit with Confusion or Return, Metatite would die. And that doesn't work for the speed run. If Metatite dies here, your run is dead. So I go for the kill into Numel, expecting Metatite to just kill my Quilava. Because, whatever. I get the experience. It uses Calm Mind anyway. And then I just start throwing the Great Ball multiple times. On this turn, I do think to myself that I should have Super Potioned Quilava instead of calling with Espeon. Every breakout with this Metatite loses like 20 seconds. 20-25 seconds or something. Actually, probably more. Goes for the Shadow Rush into Espeon. Now, at this point, because I didn't heal Quilava last turn, I'm deciding how I want to deal with this. And I decide that I'm going to heal Espeon, because Espeon is more important overall. And if Quilava stays in Blaze, that's actually like kind of good for the next fight. I'm not gonna lie. And it's caught. So I don't actually keep Quilava in Blaze, I don't think. I think I do heal it. Just for like safety and consistency. I think in Blaze, taking Quilava into the next fight, you can potentially actually have the damage chart literally in front of me. No, it wouldn't kill. It would do a good chunk of damage though to Dunsparce. But Dunsparce does run the risk of just killing Quilava at that point. So, if it decides to use, like, Takedown. This Dunsparce has 2 status moves, Shadow Rush and Takedown. It does quite a bit of damage, or is just annoying. So. And also we need to kill the Mareep because it will Thunder Wave. And this fight in general is just bad. It's just statuses. It's just statuses. So you need to take turn 1 to kill Mareep, which means X special on Espeon. And then hope that Dunsparce isn't, like, awful. It has Glare and Yawn. And also, well, Takedown and Shadow Rush, like I said. So Shadow Rush and Takedown both do a lot of damage. Glare and Yawn are obviously both annoying. But Yawn doesn't have, like, an immediate impact on you. Uses Yawn into Quilava, which is fine. Quilava can use this turn to kill Cacnea like it's supposed to. And then 2 turns of Confusion kills Dunsparce. And I think all Dunsparce does here is Yawn into the Espeon. So I can use Quilava's turn to full heal Quilava, letting me skip the Pokemon Center heal. So yeah, Yawns into Espeon. Quilava falls asleep, full heal Quilava, Confusion kill. And my Pokemon are not damaged, so I can skip a center heal and go straight to the next fight. That does mean that I'm down to 1 full heal, which means if I do get status somewhere else, I either have to expend it, and then if I use my last full heal, I cannot use my revives, because I need that to target Espeon with. I have seen one person in particular, I think they keep like an awakening or something, just to do the targeting glitch, but it never really came up as an issue. We just move on. Swablu and Lotad. These two are not that big of a deal. You kind of just use the turn to buff Espeon. In order to try and 2-turn Swablu. Confusion onto Lotad after the boost is a guaranteed kill. Swablu, it's not, it will never kill. And on Lombre in this fight, it's a 56%. The Shadow Rush recoil damage there was not enough either. So, turn 2, this is fairly expected. Swablu can fly on turn 1, which is annoying, but it doesn't change the fight too much. Just Flame Wheel kill Swablu and Confusion kill Lotad. And then next turn, ideally, Confusion kills Lombre, which 9 out of 16 times it does, and Flame Wheel is guaranteed on Beldum. Not all Quilavas are guaranteed to kill Beldum with Flame Wheel. You do need to hit a special attack benchmark to do it, but the mark of a runnable Quilava should always hit that mark. Should always hit that special attack threshold. This is definitely one of the longer runs that I'm doing this for, post-commentary wise. So I hope if you're on YouTube, you're enjoying it. Enjoy me going over like the details of these fights and like this speedrun, because this is a over 3.5 hour, 3 3/4 hour run of a lot of stuff going on. The heal on Quilava there is necessary. The Mirror B fight is fairly consistent. Most of the time loss on the split comes from Metatite catch. Mirror B is mostly consistent. He has 4 Ludicolo's. They all have a different level. Every different level Ludicolo has a slightly different combination of ability and moves. The worst combination is the level 29 Ludicolo because it has Swift Swim and Water Gun. The level 30 and 31 Ludicolo both have Rain Dish. The 28 and 29 both have Swift Swim. And he sends out the 28 and the 29. The main issue with the level 29 Ludicolo is that the way that the fight is routed out, that is the last Ludicolo that is supposed to die. So we give Espeon 2x specials on turn 1 because both of Mirror B's Ludicolos here will use Rain Dance. Both of them will use Rain Dance. So the order that we're trying to kill these Ludicolos in are the highest level to the lowest level, skip 29, and kill 29 last. So 31, 30, 28, 29. Sort of. Obviously, because it's different leads, it's not always going to be the same. So you just do it based on priority. Of the 29 has the lowest priority, and then 28 is above that, 30 is above that, 31's above that. The level 31 Ludicolo with a +3 Espeon is a 15 out of 16 range. You can be in a position where this doesn't kill. So Ludicolo does not go for a kill onto Quilava. I think it can, but at the same time, I think he is somewhat random in what he decides to do. Obviously hit the range. So the point here with Quilava is to dig. And the goal is to hit the incoming Sudowoodo with dig. So you're going to aim into the slot where Sudowoodo will come out. An Espeon at level 34 actually will finally outspeed the level 29 Ludicolo. And I think I just barely got the level up here. Yeah. It's not usually that close, but because of the Mantine loss experience, it is very close. So Quilava comes out and digs into Sudowoodo. And then Quilava is going to dig again in order to not die to like a rock slide or something. And then Confusion the Ludicolo. Sudowoodo also has Shadow Rush, obviously. It'll go for either Rock Slide or Shadow Rush here. The only real threat it has against Espeon is if it Shadow Rushes the Espeon slot and it crits. Which, chances are, it's never going to do. I have seen it happen in my attempts. But odds are, it should be a fairly clean fight with Mirror B. And I didn't really lose that much time to this split for what was, a third or fourth try Metatite catch. It wasn't that bad. But you really see how long those Metatite catches, how quickly it builds up. 54 seconds. I had a good Mirror B. And you see I quickly switched over to PB and back. To show that my early game in PB was really bad. I was definitely ahead of PB. Still at this point. And now we have a bit of walking and text mashing segment. But I think my potions were pretty good at this point. If I recall. I had one hyper potion. I might have been out of super potions. But I also may have mixed up what I was doing with like another run at some point. So during this segment, we're going to Agot Village, obviously. It's the next part of the game. And you can choose to do a shopping trip before or after fighting Cypher Peon Scrub, who is the trainer with the Hitmontop. So I forget what I did in this run. I think I did delay the shop until after, which is normally what you do. But I know there was at least a couple runs in the last week where I went to the shop before. It is also worth noting the attempt counter on these splits are accurate. There's 104 attempts in a month of this. Obviously, most of them don't get by RNG manip at the beginning, but there are definitely a pretty good handful that do. I had a lot of runs that died probably around an hour in, 20 minutes into a bad enough Quilava. Yeah, I did do the shopping trip early to buy a few hyper potions and to, I think, buy like an extra revive and a full heal. Yeah, it was just a matter of not being confident with my money at this point. A big reason to wait until after is to buy a vitamin also for Quilava. Either a calcium or a carbos for special attack or speed, respectively. But with these kind of stats on Quilava, I didn't think it was necessary. Little did I know that like it definitely would have helped have the calcium. But that's a whole other issue entirely. Also, the movement up there on around the tree was a little bit sloppy. I was trying to get Rui stuck on the ramp just so she didn't follow you to the experience share. The experience share there is very important. We're going to be using that for a big chunk of the next like hour. Yeah, basically for the next hour. Experience share is going to be used to modify the experience route enough so that Espeon levels up faster. Which means we're going to be starving Quilava Typhlosion a little bit. In terms of its... In terms of what it gets over the next hour, Quilava / Typhlosion is just not going to get as much as Espeon. This fight's a little weird. You want to double target the Carvanha because Carvanha does more damage than Spheal. They both tend to use Surf, and Carvanha's is stronger, which to me is strange. Also, Carvanha died to return. I didn't expect it to. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Whatever. The Flame Wheel, meanwhile, did nothing to Spheal. And there's the Surf. So during this little stretch of 3 trainers, if Quilava can get into Blaze, that's really good. But more likely than not, it just won't. For one reason or another. Specifically on the second trainer, if the Shroomish decides to headbutt Quilava, which is completely random as far as I know, then you get Blaze, and then you get to save a lot of time on the third fight. But otherwise, you just kind of have to deal with it, unfortunately. which I think is definitely what happens here. Just dealing with it. Blaze into Cacnea is guaranteed. Cacnea's special defense is very low. I think the Flame Wheel into Shroomish only kills if you're in Blaze. Yep. Looking at the chart. Confusion here wasn't necessary. Return would have killed, but Shroomish decided to use Growth instead of Headbutt into Lava, which means no Blaze for the third fight. Surprised I'm tired considering I actually got decent sleep. This is just a long run to have to go over. Compared to last month where I did Kirby, the Kirby run is over right around now, and this run still has another like almost 2.5 hours to go. So we double target the Baltoy here. If your Quilava is slow enough, as I've learned, then the Baltoy can actually go before Quilava. The odds of that are very low, but if it does, and at Cosmic Powers, you don't get to kill it as quickly as you do in this fight. This fight does look very straightforward. It doesn't look like there's a whole lot of room to necessarily improve it, but Blaze is where you do, because a Blaze Flame Wheel kills Ralts. And then that means that you can kill Baltoy and Kirlia slightly faster as well. I think you save like half a turn with Blaze. Which doesn't seem like a lot, but it is. The crit actually does matter there. Otherwise, you do need the return and Flame Wheel normally to kill Kirlia. And now we're going into Scrub. The Scrub fight is very dynamic. So if I didn't heal Quilava there, and Scrub led with Hitmontop, Triple Kick would kill Quilava. And it is also worth noting, this is where some of the experience issues from Mantine come into play. Espeon is pretty close to 150, 160 experience short of leveling up. And if Scrub leads with Hitmontop, it's already a range if Espeon had the experience it was supposed to have. And it's a 68% range, a level higher than my Espeon currently is. So it would be an even smaller range. I will say really quickly, this fight is complete RNG. This is the average fight. 2 Shadow Rushes, 2 Quick Attacks. Pikachu can miss with Quick Attack because this Hitmontop is holding Bright Powder. The Hitmontop that we fight in the actual Scrub fight does not have Bright Powder. This Hitmontop also only knows Shadow Rush, and Pikachu only knows Quick Attack. Hitmontop can lose if it gets paralyzed by static and doesn't get to attack. The end. Nothing different happens if Hitmontop loses. This is the best lead that we could have gotten. Because he didn't lead Hitmontop, which means we get to use 2x specials on Espeon instead of 1, which means that the Hitmontop is no longer a range at all. And Espeon will also level up from killing this Geodude, so it is at the level it's supposed to be at. It's just short experience. So it's supposed to be 35 entering this fight. So, second X special, this will be for when Hitmontop comes out next turn to get the kill. And that's pretty much it. This fight's over. There's nothing that can go wrong here. We Shadow Rush with Quilava for this, onto Why Not for this next attack, just to get some chip damage. And because this Why Not only uses Mirror Coat, for some reason, it's not gonna do anything. If we Flame Wheeled it now, it would actually be problematic. I also double targeted Hitmontop because it doesn't matter. Hitmontop dies and then Shadow Rush goes into Why Not regardless. It saves like what, frame or two. Yeah, so why not use the Mirror Coat? Does nothing. Flame Wheel, Confusion. Fight's over. A lot of these like mid-game fights are not necessarily scary. It's just a matter of if you save or lose a lot of time, which snowballs from there, depending on how you lose time. This was actually a pretty good segment. I believe my gold, the Hitmontop crit the Pikachu in the Egan fight, which is, it saves an entire turn. And saves 2 whole attacks, so it's a good chunk of time. I also did the shopping trip early in this, so I lost time on the scrub segment, but I will be technically saving time on Dham for having done the shopping trip in the earlier split. But you will see that the Dham split goes very poorly. Mount Battle is a stretch of 10 fights in a row, ending with Cypher Admin Dham. And that fight is normally fairly consistent, but he does have one particular lead Pokemon that can cause an issue, especially in combination with other circumstances. Primarily are Typhlosion's defensive stats. Typhlosion's physical defense IV is 11, its HP is 1, its special defense is 13. It is not particularly bulky, to say the least. And that doesn't give us a lot of room to really fix anything. I'm giving it the Espeon experience share here. So as routed, Espeon gets experience share after the 5th fight on Mount Battle. Also, if you exit this email too quickly, it doesn't count as being read. Thankfully, Microsoft Outlook is not the same. But I lost a little bit of time to that. So we're going to go purify our Quilava. And it's going to gain 20,000 experience points. I think the minimum it can typically get is around 19,000 something, like a high 19,000. So that means we have a bit of extra experience on Quilava to work with, even after other mishaps. Let me see the exact amount that it gets here. I don't know if I entered it in the spreadsheet wrong during the run. $2,524 experience points. So it comfortably hits level 36 and evolves. Yeah, so I have experience share on Espeon one fight early, which means we're starving Quilava of a little bit more experience, which is, I think it's around 600. Which puts it on a lower range of like where you kind of want it to be already, unfortunately. But Espeon is supposed to learn Psybeam on the 3rd fight of Mount Battle. And it is a fairly tight level up normally. So that missing experience from Mantine, I believe actually does make a difference. And it does get made up for here. You can also see on the balance splits, this is the first time that we've been ahead of balanced. So we're going to be losing time to the actual PB for like the entire rest of the run. But saving time compared to balanced in general. I don't know if this split is one of those splits that saves time to balance though. I don't think it is. This split goes fairly poorly. And it will not be obvious for a while until for why. We do not get Blaze on the first fight of Mount Battle. You need Blaze from the first 2 fights. Getting it on the first one is obviously a little bit better. You save like an entire turn on the second fight if you have Blaze earlier. But we need Typhlosion to be in Blaze, which means 1/3 of its max HP or lower. And we need that for 7 out of the 10 fights on Mount Battle. So it's pretty tight position to be in. Trapinch uses Dig here, which is good because that goes into Typhlosion and does anywhere from 66 to 78 damage. Flame Wheel misses, which is fine, that's fast. And now Typhlosion is at 29 HP. We actually did get Blaze, I was wrong. I thought that I got Blaze on the second fight, but no, the Trapinch used Dig, which doesn't usually happen. The Trapinch can use Sand Attack, it can use a few other things. They're just kind of slow. I think it can use Mud Slap too. Yeah. Confusion was a 44% range there. I just kind of went for it anyway. Just because if it worked, it would be nice. Flame Wheel would have been guaranteed. I could have skipped the Confusion and, like, just straight up. And I give the Twisted Spoon back to Espeon here because I am making the estimation that Espeon is back on track to where it should be. It should be actually ahead of where it normally would be. Because that fight gave it like an extra 300 experience over what it missed. Most of these trainers have 3 Pokemon, some have 4. This Flame Wheel into Baltoy is a 56% in Blaze. Confusion on Swinup's guaranteed. As is... oh no. Larvitar you need to double into, but Flame Wheel into Baltoy is a 56%. Does not kill. Goes for Confusion into Espeon. So I double Larvitar here because Larvitar will dig. And no single attack from either Pokemon can take out Larvitar here. Meanwhile, Baltoy will either do another Confusion or it'll go for Mud Slap or Cosmic Power. And at 1 HP. Its cosmic power does not matter. I was just mashing. I clicked confusion instead of return, which is it's fine. It's a couple seconds. So, not a big deal. But we made it through the second fight. We're still in Blaze. We just need to watch Typhlosion's HP as we climb Mount Battle. This third fight is nothing but guarantees. Flame Wheel is guaranteed into Sandshrew, and Confusion is guaranteed into Geodude, and then Numel we double into, and it's guaranteed. Not really much to say about this particular fight. This is the fight where Espeon does get Psybeam. And it gets it right when it normally would, when taking out Geodude. So Espeon, we teach Psybeam over Reflect. And Psybeam will get used on Numel, actually, to defeat Numel. Yeah, the Psybeam on Numel is guaranteed, Confusion is not. So, the level up there does matter. If you didn't have Psybeam, doubling into it would be fine, though. I just wanted to make sure that I had it for the fights that I needed Psybeam for. While trying to make it so Typhlosion still gets as much experience as it's supposed to, or as it can. Because there's no way Typhlosion's getting all of the experience it needs. This fourth fight here, Pineco Baltoy. The Pineco is guaranteed with Confusion. Baltoy is a 88% with Flame Wheel. And notably on the next Pokemon that he sends out is Houndour. Bite will do 23 to 28 damage to Typhlosion, which does not guarantee a kill, so we actually don't know what Houndour is going to do here, just as it's sent out alone. We got the range on Baltoy. It's expected 88%. And then out comes Graveler. So we use Dig into the Houndour and Psybeam the Graveler. Fairly easy. Houndour goes for Ember into Espeon. Just a little bit of chip damage. Slow attack. The crit is kind of annoying. Because it crit, I think I decided to heal here. I didn't really have to heal. Because I do think that even if I didn't, the next fight would have played out like it's supposed to anyway. But because Espeon is below 49 HP in this situation, I did decide to heal it because Dig from the 2 Trapinch would be able to kill Espeon. So I wasn't sure in the moment if the Trapinch might change their targets from Typhlosion to Espeon. And just to make sure, I healed Espeon there. Telia has a couple different lead options. Most of the time, it's just a matter... I mean, it's really just a matter of if she leads Lileep or not. And I feel like most of the time she does end up doing that. So we do double into Lileep. The Trapinch is going to use Dig, and then it's just a matter of using Psybeam on her other 3 Pokemon after Lileep goes down. Because we can guarantee that the Digs are going to be going into the Typhlosion slot, and Typhlosion is also able to dig, and Typhlosion's, because of when we dig with Typhlosion versus when the Trapinch digs, like, we'll never get hit. It's just alternating the dig turn efficiently and effectively, while Espeon does clean up. This fight's pretty slow, but it's safe, and we don't really have any other option. And after this fight is when we equip the experience share back on Espeon again. And Espeon will be holding experience share basically until it hits level 44. Yeah, Trapinch is underground, so we just click moves to miss. Missing a move is faster than calling or doing anything else. I menued a little bit with Espeon because I wasn't sure on my Psybeam counts if I needed to conserve one or something, but I'm pretty sure it was fine. Psybeam has enough PP that it doesn't really... You don't really get into a position where that matters in this game. You actually get quite a few like free heals throughout the run. The game doesn't really like tell you that it healed your Pokemon, but you do get a few. And here we're moving Flame Wheel to slot 1 on Typhlosion just because it is the move, and then giving Espeon the experience share. Flame Wheel is the move that we are using the most, so it should be in slot 1, so we don't have to menu for it. So on this trainer, she has 3 Pokemon, Cacnea, Spinda. Cacnea is guaranteed to die to Psybeam. Spinda is a range with Flame Wheel 63%. Yeah, you can see me forgetting that Flame Wheel's in slot 1 a little bit, but it changes. It gets adjusted for over time. Always confusing when you first swap it. Yeah, so the Spinda range was missed. Spinda goes for Psybeam, which guaranteed does not do any much. That was actually a max roll damage too. Crazy. So Flame Wheel into Kadabra is also a range. It is 88%. But Spinda goes down here. I believe this Kadabra always uses Kinesis on turn 1, regardless of if you hit the range or not. But 88%. And we hit it. So, clean enough fight. I'm probably doing some mental math here, but at 19 HP, even if you use a regular potion that puts Typhlosion too high HP and outside of Blaze, so I can't heal it at all here if I wanted to or not. And we're going into a... This is a solo Espeon fight, actually. Vibrava and Sandslash both use Dig. Graveler uses Rock Throw. So we target down Graveler first, and then, just like before, we'll be digging with Typhlosion to dodge the digs of the other Pokemon. I was pretty deep in the notes here, so I think I paused a little bit on the second turn. Also, Graveler's special defense is low enough that you don't need to use a Psybeam. Confusion works. Out comes Sand Slash. I wasn't really looking at the screen here, so I select Dig with Typhlosion. And then, not sure which Pokemon is actually above ground, whether it's Espeon or Vibrava, or Sand Slash or Vibrava. So I was waiting for the camera to show me which of the two is actually on the field. Just because I'm looking at damage values further ahead and not paying as much attention to these fights in particular. Mostly because of the next fight. Because of this next fight, Typhlosion's HP is low enough that Houndour will use Bite into the Typhlosion slot. If Typhlosion is in Blaze but still like high enough, then Houndour uses Torment instead, and that is pretty common. That's usually what I tried to get, because the Torment fights are fairly straightforward. So Typhlosion here is going to use Dig into Houndour while Espeon kills the Coughing. And then Houndour is going to use Bite into the Typhlosion slot. This Duskull with... Where is it? This Duskull with Psybeam is a 31% chance to kill. So you're not realistically hitting that. You could, but you're probably not hitting that. It gets confused. Dig kills Houndour. And out comes Kirlia. Kirlia with Flame Wheel is guaranteed in Blaze. 100% of the time this will kill. And then Duskull hits itself, so I don't have to use a Confusion or a Psybeam on Duskull again. And I just call with Espeon. Technically, I think entering and exiting the menu might have been slow enough that Helping Hand... No, Helping Hand is probably still slower. Doesn't matter. Guaranteed. The 9th fight on Mount Battle is the reason that we wanted Typhlosion in Blaze the entire time. Obviously, Blaze helps tremendously throughout the climb, but in this 9th fight, in Blaze with this Typhlosion, Flame Wheel is a 94% chance. Outside of Blaze, it is a 0% chance. So, these Geodude are both going to self-destruct. So we're going to use Confusion and Flame Wheel to remove them from the field. Ideally, 94% on the Flame Wheel. And a crit, which for all I know mattered. And on this Sand Slash, this is the only use of Helping Hand in the entire game. This pushes Flame Wheel over the edge to kill. Psybeam would not kill on its own either, so... Very funny. And then we heal Typhlosion before Dham, because entering the Dham fight with Blaze is unfortunately not a good idea. And that's because one of his leads would punish that very hard. So, Dakim will always lead with Metang. His other three Pokemon are Golem, Marshtomp, and Camerupt. Golem and Camerupt will both use Protect on turn 1. And that means they will both use Protect because Metang is going for Earthquake. Marshtomp will go for Mud Shot into Typhlosion. The range on Mud Shot is between 52 and 62 damage. Typhlosion's HP is not that high. With a 1 HP IV, Typhlosion's HP is 107. So, I would need 2 minerals on the... basically minerals on the Mud Shot. So we go for Flame Wheel into Metang. That Metang, that was an 81% chance to kill, which is very good that we got that. Out comes Golem. And Marshtomp goes for a Mud Shot. And that does 62 damage. A max roll. So I play this out like normal. We are going to get Espeon to +2. And Espeon is going to Psybeam Golem. Golem is going for Earthquake. And Marshtomp is guaranteed to kill Typhlosion with Mud Shot as long as it hits. So Typhlosion has gotten experience from Metang and Golem. And the answer is no, we could not kill the Marshtomp early. Marshtomp is the last one that we can kill. It was the worst lead that we could have gotten here. So out comes Makuhita. I think for a second about reviving Typhlosion and decide not to do so. Because that would be splitting experience further on Espeon. And there really is no backups at this point to make up for that. So Typhlosion is down experience from Camerupt, Marshtomp, and Entei. So I just go for a Shadow Rush with Makuhita to chip down a little bit of Entei's health. The Psybeam into Entei, I believe, is not guaranteed necessarily. So a little bit of chip makes it so it will be guaranteed. Entei will be going for a Shadow Rush into Makuhita, and we use this turn with Espeon to kill the Marshtomp finally. So we're losing a very, very good chunk of time here for a multitude of reasons, but the Marshtomp lead in general is really bad. Because the other options are Golem and Camerupt. Both Golem and Camerupt will just use Protect while the Metang is out, because they don't want to get Earthquaked by Metang. So that gives us some big safety turns. And it gives us a whole extra turn of Typhlosion not taking damage from Marshtomp. Because Typhlosion could not take 2 hits. Sometimes Typhlosion can. Usually Typhlosion can take 2 Mud Shots and it's fine. But this was not one of those Typhlosions. Its HP is too low without much lower rolls on damage. So we lost a good chunk there, and that is going to impact the rest of the run dramatically. It cannot be understated how much losing that experience on Typhlosion hurts the next hour and a half that Typhlosion is going to be on the field for. Unfortunately, that's not the end. This next segment is fairly long. There's a lot of nothing happening. You go from Dham to Venus, and this Venus segment, it's mostly just talking to NPCs, admittedly. The fight itself is not as long as you'd think it is. And the only trainer in this segment is Venus. This is a heavy story segment, so I don't have much to talk about until we get to Venus fight. But, yeah. I will lead into it by saying that Venus is the most heavy RNG fight in the entire game. So it's not a good time. There's a lot that can go wrong there, and there's a lot that will go wrong there. Yeah, mostly just moving around, getting emails and stuff for story progress. Oh. Yeah, we're mostly just like, there's a little bit here that I can point out. So we're using, not here, but on the next door. We're going to be dodging a trainer by walking it just outside her vision. And we're going to be using a key item by opening the item menu instead of pressing A on the interactable. And that saves exactly one text box to open the item menu manually for this. So when I can, I'm going to be trying to do this fairly often. Obviously, if you use the wrong key item, it doesn't matter anyway. But that does save one text box to do that all manually. And in the under here, there's a couple like very minor things. We're going to be buying... This is the last shopping trip we're making in the run. So past this segment, money does not matter. Which is relevant for... not the next split, but like the one after. Relevant for Ein and the Shadow Pokemon Lab, specifically. So we're gonna go down here to the hotel. We're gonna grab these hyper potions. They're just free hyper potions on the ground. And we're gonna use the $1,000 inn to heal. Dham, between Dham and Venus, is one of the few times the game does not heal you automatically. And 1,000 is not an egregious amount. We do have enough money to do that and buy what we need. Unfortunately. Otherwise, we would have to revive Typhlosion and use a potion, and at that point, you might as well just spend 1,000. After Venus, we do get healed, so that's really just for the Venus fight. The Venus fight is big nightmare. Big nightmare. I don't know why I didn't have this open up wider this entire time, so I can see everything at once, instead of having to scroll to the side to see like damage ranges and everything. So based on your Typhlosion and Espeon stats, I guess I'm just gonna be talking about Venus for a little bit. Venus will target either Typhlosion or Espeon based on the stats that they have, and also the gender. If your Typhlosion is female, the fight is different than if it is male. obviously more likely than not, your Typhlosion is male. If your Typhlosion is female, all of the fight options against Venus become drastically worse. Some of the worst combinations include needing to hit 5 out of 5 Fire Blasts on Venus because your Typhlosion is female. And statistically, hitting an 80% chance 5 times in a row is not likely. More often than not, you'll probably miss one. So, we're getting to the point where we are getting Fire Blast as a TM from the Unders store, along with 3 other TMs, 2 copies of Protect, and Hidden Power for our Espeon. So Espeon will finally be able to make use of its Grass type Hidden Power, which is a special attack because it's a Grass type move. And the Protect for Espeon and Typhlosion in order to stall / use their current HP or their current position to bait attacks into specific slots and Protect to counter the bait. Basically using Protect to be creative in how we counter the AI. So this is the shopping trip. I think when I do this shopping, I buy from the bottom up to make sure that I can spend the rest of my money. I also sell the toxic TM we're given for free for an extra 1500, with which to buy like a potion or a revive or something, just as like extra safety. So there's the 2 Protect TMs. So we have 6,000 left. I buy a revive. And then I put the rest of the money into 2 hyper potions. I could have bought a full heal also, but I didn't think about that until I was already leaving the menus. So I said, screw it. Move on. So here we're going to teach our TMs in front of this disc reader so that we can use the R disc when we're done teaching TMs without exiting the menus, and just having it all line up real nice. Typhlosion level 38 is unfortunate, to say the least. Yes, these menus are very careful, because when you select the move to overwrite, you are done choosing right there. You do not get more dialogue options. Once you've selected the move, that is what you are replacing. Be very careful there. It's very sketchy. Do not be mashing. Do not be over mashing there. So yeah, we're gonna go in here. We're gonna grab 3 rare candies from that chest right there. These are very important for Espeon's experience routing. And this is Venus. So with these stats and these genders, Venus will target Espeon. So Delcatty Vileplume is one of her most awkward lead combinations. She will be double targeting Espeon. And what you're trying to do here with Typhlosion, yes, you're X-specialing Typhlosion and protecting with Espeon. This attract goes into Ty, and that attract goes into Espeon. And with Typhlosion, you are then going to buff Espeon and try to kill Delcatty because it has attracted Typhlosion. This is an 11/16 chance it lives, I think, but it died, 5 and 16. Out comes Steelix. Typhlosion is at +1. Vileplume has now attracted Espeon. Attract is 50% to breakthrough. So with Typhlosion, a +1 Flame Wheel will kill Steelix, and a Psybeam will kill Vileplume. This fight sucks. Like, trust me, this fight sucks. All of Venus's Pokemon no attract. Out comes Bayonet. We have another chance to Psybeam. Sunspore misses. Fire Blast has to hit Bayonet. Psybeam has to hit Vileplume. Espeon does not break through 2 turns in a row. 2 coin flips. The Fire Blast does hit. That is a guaranteed kill on Bayonet. Thankfully. And then out comes Suicune. This is the bad part. Suicune is going to Surf. So I need it to die. Sunspore goes into Espeon. Espeon is now Attract Paralyzed. That does mean that Typhlosion outspeeds Espeon, which means that I can kill Vileplume and remove the issue of Attract. But now we have a 50% chance of Paralysis. And Suicune is going to go for Surf. Surf does 51 to 60 damage to Typhlosion. Like a mid-roll. Lose the 3rd coin flip in a row with Espeon. So we full heal away the paralysis and hope that Hidden Power, maybe it crits. No. So Surf again. And we have lost the Suicune experience on Typhlosion. Revive is still not an option. Because Espeon's experience route is so tight. So Hidden Power a second time. Venus Fight is done. Lost 3 coin flips in a row. Hit 2 Fire Blasts. But now Typhlosion is missing experience from Golem. Is it Golem? It's like Marshtomp, Camerupt, Entei, and Suicune. 4 very big sources of experience that Typhlosion is missing. So it is effectively down an entire level for the rest of the run from where it's supposed to be. And now we have the staircase of 4 fights in a row. All 4 of these trainers have 4 Pokemon. This first one is a little complicated. She typically leads Gligar, but with this combination, we're just going to go for a hopefully quick kill. Flame Wheel into Broomish, Psybeam into Teddiursa. Guaranteed kills. Out comes Jigglypuff. Flame Wheel goes into Shroomish. Out comes Gligar. Gligar only takes 50% from Psybeam. Gligar also has Sand Attack. So we go for Fire Blast to guarantee a kill because Flame Wheel will not kill and Fire Blast misses. So Gligar does Sand Attack into Typhlosion. So Flame Wheel on Jigglypuff is a 75% chance to kill. If it hits. That's 2 misses from Typhlosion already in the split. After it has lost close to an entire level's worth of experience. Or around like probably close to like half a level of experience, to be like perfectly honest, but it's a lot of experience Typhlosion has lost, and it is not making up for it. So, second fight. Hidden Power has a chance to kill Kirlia. Most likely it does not. Usually, Hidden Power does not kill Kirlia, though it can. Flame Wheel will kill Roselia and Gloom. And then her fourth Pokemon is Stantler, which should come out on its own after turn 2. Kirlia will just Calm Mind. Very one track. And then out comes Stantler. Stantler will die to Flame Wheel plus Psybeam. And I believe normally most Stantlers. That's what happened. That's where it happened. Okay. Hidden Power in a Stantler does not do nearly as much as Psybeam would. So it gets an attack off. Probably loses around like 30 seconds here. Especially because it killed. 64 to 76. Yeah, that was just unlucky. So Typhlosion loses even more experience because I misclicked Hidden Power. I have to revive Typhlosion after this, which is... There's enough revives, like that's not a big deal. It's just a matter of more and more experience that Typhlosion is losing because of these mistakes. Because of that one mistake. The rest of them I don't think were mistakes. I think it was strictly RNG. Like, there was nothing I could realistically do about the rest of the experience Typhlosion had lost to Dham and Venus. The Stantler was an issue, though. Just stacking onto it. Lanya here, not really a whole lot to it. Double Flame Wheel into Dunsparce, Hidden Power Octillery, Fire Blast Masquerain, Fire Blast Piloswine optimally. I did decide not to Fire Blast Piloswine because it was the last Pokemon on the field, and that a hidden power Flame Wheel would kill it. And I did not, because I did not want to risk the Fire Blast miss when I was already losing so much other time. Interestingly enough, Flame Wheel into Masquerain will not kill unless you're in Blaze, so you kind of just have to deal with it. Yeah, the Psybeam will finish off Dunsparce just fine. Very unfortunate fight. Yep, Flame Wheel, hidden power. Should be pretty easy kill. And the final fight. This trainer has Sneasel, Loudred, Seviper, and Corsola. Sneasel lives a Flame Wheel, so you go for Fire Blast. Loudred is an 88% chance to die to Psybeam. So this is technically the worst lead, I think, because it is 2 chances to go wrong here. The Psybeam range hits, though. Loudred goes down. Out comes Seviper. Fire Blast misses. Typhlosion takes a ton of damage. I go for Fire Blast again into Sneasel, and I Psybeam the Seviper. Sneasel, I believe, goes for Screech here. I don't know why it decided it didn't want to kill Typhlosion, but we take that. Oh no, Typhlosion went first. Weird. Also weird. Also strange. They must have been speed tying. They must have been speed tying based on what I have. But hidden power on Corsola is guaranteed. Grass into the water and rock type. So level 40 Typhlosion, a little late on it, but it is what it is. You just have to deal with it. The rest of this is all fairly straightforward, nothing really happening. You just have to do some story stuff. Go in the wrong side. One minor thing to mention is that I did, during one of those fights, I did remove the memory card from the Wii. So we will be doing a strat coming up in Shadow Pokemon Lab where it is important to not have a memory card plugged in. But I'll point that out when we get there. Like, adjust the camera a little bit. Because I'm trying to like sit kind of relaxed. Let me just go back. On the way back here, it is faster to climb the stairs than it is to take the elevator. It's kind of, my opinion, true. Just overall, in a lot of essence, a lot of like times. I think I called that out during the run. At some point, or in like some attempt, that just taking the stairs is faster than the elevator. If you've ever been to like a convention or something and you're in that's like held in a hotel, like man, these elevators are pretty slow. Literally could just take the stairs at this point. I feel like it's not uncommon. For that to be a thing. So, off to Shadow Pokemon Lab. Had a lot of misses with Typhlosion. Misinput opening the PDA instead of item menu. PDA feels like the worst misinput too because it's so slow. Yeah, you will notice a lot of these splits are bad. Lost a lot of time to golds basically everywhere. But a lot of that, it comes down to RNG. It really does, and that... I mean, that is a Pokemon game. I do know that, like, if I did have a run that got really good RNG throughout, I would have a 5-minute, 8-minute faster PB. But to get everything to line up, to that level, you do mostly just have to keep playing it. I do feel like I understand this run well enough that if I did put another month, another 2 months in, and got the right RNG, that I'd have a very competitive time as opposed to a 344. But that's just how the RNG kind of falls into place. Be more consistent at some things, some menus, be more prepared for other things, but there is a point where RNG makes a big difference in this. And this is also the point where Espeon hits level 44. Just barely. Just barely. That Mantine experience and that little bit of adjustment made to Espeon's experience with experience share on Mount Battle mattered. Because without that experience share on the first fight of Mount Battle, it would not have hit 44 there. And that is drastically important because the entire segment here depends on hitting level 44 by that fight. So we are now going to deposit all of our Pokemon. And place Metatite down here manually, just to save some inputs. Attempt to save, no memory cards, save fails. But because we attempted to save, our respawn point was set to that PC. And this is where a little intricacy with the Cypher Peon Trainer class comes into play. I'm going to try and explain this in... It's pretty... There's only a few ways that you can really explain it, but I'm going to go into as much detail as I can. For Cypher Peons, specifically, the in-game bit, byte, flag, anything, whatever you want to call it, technically it's a flag, for if this trainer has been defeated, is set when you encounter them. Meaning that by losing these fights, it removes the trainer from the map. Because the Cypher Peons always leave after you defeated them. So they just made it so after being encountered, they get removed. And now we put Espeon back in over Plusle, put Typhlosion in slot 2. Espeon in slot 1 makes this a little bit faster. We're going to give Espeon 3 rare candies so that it hits 47. And at level 47, Espeon learns Psychic. No more confusion. We have Psychic, Hidden Power, Psybeam, Protect. And we give Espeon the Twisted Spoon back. Because Espeon is done with a lot of its experience gains, I give Typhlosion experience share for the next fight. Because Typhlosion doesn't need charcoal for this fight to work, I give it the experience share in hopes that it gets like just a little bit, just a little bit of catch up. Because Espeon is like fine. Espeon's fine from this point on. It'll hit like plenty high enough level, even if it misses like a little bit of experience here. Also throughout Shadow Pokemon Lab, these DNA sample spawn locations are random. You didn't even see that one blink. I just tried it because I know that it blinks like usually by the time I pass it, if it's there. So I just like, I'm gonna try this because if I pass it and have to walk back, I'm gonna be like upset. Versus it just not being there. Level 47 Espeon outspeeds Electrode here. If at its level 44, you do not outspeed Electrode, which is very important. So Psychic Electrode and Flame Wheel the Magnemite. So at this point, I'm looking at the damage calcs and saying, how much damage does Espeon do to Typhlosion? And this Typhlosion is not bulky, as we've seen. So I cannot use Psychic on Typhlosion, so I Psybeam Typhlosion instead. And this puts Typhlosion in Blaze. And Flame Wheel goes into Magneton. It does not need Blaze for that. Well, actually the calc says otherwise. The calc says it did need Blaze and that was a 25% range. We're gonna ignore that. That's weird. Hold up left here. You don't get the trainer encounter. Just buffer up left out of that staircase. So Explosion is in Blaze. And down here at this door, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna give Typhlosion back the charcoal. This is kind of just like me hoping that this works, because if this does work, this is fast. It's not as fast as it could have been. Your Typhlosion does have to be a little bit better than this one for this to be like perfect. Also, Nuzleaf just doesn't do what you want it to here. Nuzleaf does growth, which is unfortunately not a good enough move to, you know, make what you want happen. So we're trying to do the same thing we were doing with Plusle. We're gonna call with Espeon and Fire Blast with Typhlosion into the Espeon slot. If Typhlosion is a little bit better, this is almost a guaranteed kill. But Espeon's special defense is also like pretty high, even though it's a minus nature. So Houndour does bite into Espeon, that kills it. And then we have Typhlosion alone, and Nuzleaf does growth. I think what I could have done here is just kill Nuzleaf with Typhlosion and gotten some more experience, because like, why not? The bite does not kill Typhlosion. What's the range on that? 23 to 28. Okay, yeah, it didn't have a chance of killing. And then the Feint Attack finishes it off. Like, that was slow, a slow death, but it was a death to a Cypher-Peon, which means she's no longer there, and now we bring back Plusle and deposit Espeon and Typhlosion for the next 3 fights. This does look slow. This does look slow. Many people have said this looks really slow. But I think up to this point, giving some confidence to the YouTube viewers out there, you've seen how slow these fights can be. You've seen how slow the animations are. You've seen generally how fights tend to go. And you can look at the timer and see that, okay, all of these trainers have 4 Pokemon. Well, 3 Pokemon minimum. 2 of them have 4 Pokemon, 2 of them have 3 Pokemon. They're just... looking at the map, looking at the numbers, like I think there's a trainer missing from the spreadsheet, but it doesn't really matter. They all have 3 or more Pokemon, and most of them have Pokemon that resist psychic moves, they resist fire moves. Like, it's not it's not a simple and done case of just beat the trainer. So unfortunately, these fights would probably take around between 2 and 3 minutes each. Whereas this walk back may seem really slow, but if it only takes you 45 seconds, a minute to walk back versus the 2 minutes it takes to do the fight, 2+ minutes it takes, like, it's just worth it. I go left here into Lessar. He will drop down from the right also, but I believe he drops down earlier on the left. Normally you would go to the left anyway to get a peek and see if there was like a DNA sample in the room to the left. But I do already have the 2 DNA samples I need. If you remember, if you played Pokemon Colosseum before, you'll know that there's a puzzle in Shadow Pokemon Lab that requires it's you get your hints from DNA samples that you find throughout the lab. There are 3 in total. We only pick up 2 and only check 2. And just guess on the 3rd Pokemon. Because if you know 2 of the 3 and there's only 9 different buttons to press, it doesn't take that long. Usually. I'm not 100% sure on how the puzzle works. I think there might be like some patterns to it, but having only 2 is you could technically do it with 0 in first try if you really wanted to. And you know, that's what a task would do. That's what a task run would do. Unfortunately, we are not that good. No human is that lucky to guess 3 correct out of 9 possible selections. I've done it with 1 before I learned where more of the spots were. I have done it with 1 pretty quickly. That is the last Cypher Peon that we're losing to, so we're bringing Espeon and Typhlosion back into the party. And we're going to be going for a very specific fight here after we check our DNA samples. Which I forget where the 2 that I had were on this one. Because I had, in the last, like, couple days before this run, I had multiple runs get to, like, this point or further on pretty good paces. On paces that were probably faster than this run finished with, admittedly. Runs that got luckier than this one, let's say, until the end, where they got so unlucky that they died. And this run happened to get lucky enough to finish. So there is Quilava, DNA sample, and Bayleaf. I think my first guess was Croconaw, but we'll see in a second. This one did take me a little bit to get, unfortunately. I do remember that. I do remember losing a good chunk of time. I think I probably like almost last tried the solution here. But this trainer in particular is fairly straightforward. They have an Electrode and a Magneton like the other trainers that we fought, other scientists. And their third Pokemon is an Ampharos. Ampharos with Typhlosion in Blaze is a guaranteed kill. However, you do have to put Typhlosion in Blaze to do that. The safe strat for this fight would be to use Psychic and Flame Wheel. The fast strat is to Psychic or Psybeam Typhlosion, depending on what is going to do the correct amount of damage. And I believe the way I had it looking was if I used Psybeam and I min-rolled, Typhlosion would not be in Blaze. Luckily, I did not min-roll Psybeam. On the other side of that coin, a high roll on Psychic would have killed outright. So the Fire Blast hits and defeats Ampharos. Easy. The rest of these fights are pretty simple. Well, no. The next fight is also very complicated. The next fight has many, many different things that can go wrong because of Kecleon. Kecleon is a very difficult Pokemon to defeat, and depending on what move Kecleon decides it wants to use. If Kecleon determines that Dig is the correct option to use on Typhlosion, it will always use Dig. If Kecleon determines that Strength will work, or Strength is the option it should use, it's a 50-50 between Strength and Dig into the Typhlosion slot. So we go for Psybeam into Vibrava, and we X-Special our Espeon. This is hoping that Kecleon uses Dig. I am, at this point, not confident this is the case that will happen, but I go for it anyway, because there really isn't a better solution with what I have. Dig should do more damage than strength, so it should go for dig, which it does. Espeon outspeeds Swallow. Typhlosion uses Protect. Up comes the Kecleon into Protect. Psychic at +1 will kill Kecleon. Fire Blast in Blaze will kill Kadabra. Just have to hit. And then we have the RNG puzzle. Obviously, it was Mischievous. Second to last possible option. But here we have Scrub 2. Scrub 2 is honestly not that big of a deal. So we're going to X Special Typhlosion on turn 1, and Psybeam is guaranteed to kill him on top. And the X Special on Typhlosion is very important because Wobbuffet is the threat of this fight. And Espeon is not able to kill Wobbuffet. If Espeon were to Hidden Power into Wobbuffet, I believe Meercoat will always kill Espeon regardless of how little damage Hidden Power might do. So there is no safe way to kill Wobbuffet with Espeon. So Espeon is going to Psybeam everything except Wobbuffet, and our Blaze Typhlosion is going to go for Fire Blast into Wobbuffet, which is a 31% chance to kill without the X Special. I believe is how the chart is written. But I believe this is 100% a +1. So. Clean Scrub fight. All that's left is Graveler, which will die to Psybeam. And then we just have Ein. And Ein has 12 different combinations. Hope I'm counting right. I think it's 12 different ways the fight can go. There are 6 variants per speed of Typhlosion. Depending on whether or not Typhlosion outspeeds Ein's Golbat. So, there are 2 cases where if Typhlosion is faster than Golbat, you want to Fire Blast the Golbat. Luckily, this is not one of those combinations. I didn't have to worry about hitting a Fire Blast. Altaria will always use Fly if it sees that it can kill Typhlosion with it. So we're going to play around Altaria's Fly so that Espeon can sweep Ein. And that is the key to this fight in particular. Espeon is able to kill everything that Ein has. The only exception is Lantern. Lantern is a 7 in 8 chance for Psychic to kill. A lot of the times you don't really get a choice in how you handle this. But because of this lead combination, Lantern comes out on turn 3. Altaria is going to fly this turn, so I use Flame Wheel on the Lantern slot, on the off chance that Psychic does not kill. Out comes Raikou. It gets hit by Flame Wheel. It wastes a little bit of my time because I used it, but it was the safer strat to go with. And you can see best possible time at this point is still at 340. Obviously that requires getting a little lucky. So we go for Psychic into Raikou, kill it. And we dig with Typhlosion because it's a slightly faster animation than Protect, and still results in the same thing. And we get the Psychic kill on Altaria. So that was a very clean Ein fight. This fight in particular is not too bad. It's fairly straightforward, very minimal amounts of RNG, despite how many different combinations of leads and Typhlosion speed you have to like account for. Overall, that Shadow Pokemon Lab was pretty good. I believe the strat where I tried to kill my own Espeon, I believe it would have been faster to walk up to the PC instead. And then, you know, the puzzle was literal, like, last possible try. But other than that, the rest of Shadow Pokemon Lab went well. There's not a whole lot that can go wrong here. It's just a matter of the couple Fire Blasts that you need to hit, and Typhlosion managed to hit all of them this time. So we have a little bit of a stretch going into the final area. We have a little bit of story that we have to deal with. And a little bit of party swapping. So I do a strat here where I heal Espeon's PP by placing it in the PC. You could use one of your 3 elixirs here, but I like to use them elsewhere in the final area. So it's really just a matter of preference, I think. But otherwise, this part is mostly just story. Some NPC dialogue, and then we go into the Cypher admin refights. And these refights are all for various reasons. The easiest one, again, is Ein. The other 3 can all have something go wrong, unfortunately. We do depending on fight combinations, there are some Fire Blasts that need to hit. And there is a possible lead on Dham 2 that results in a very low chance of actually managing to win. So we drop Makuhita in slot 1. We heal Espeon's PP by placing it in the PC and then drop it in slot 2. Typhlosion in slot 3, and then we grab Umbreon and Makuhita in a Meditite here. Instead of Umbreon, you could grab Plusle. It accomplishes like the same thing. The point being, you need 5 Pokemon. Umbreon just happens to be on the path to Meditite, where Plusle is to the right. So kind of just a matter of where they are in the PC. being why I grabbed those specific ones. Notably, there are some spots where I have Umbreon, where Umbreon does get sent out, but in those cases I should have been using Metatite to skip experience gain. Very minor. So, Mirror B Refight. A lot of stuff that can go wrong here. Fire Blast ranges on Ludicolo's are not great. 38 on the level 45 one and 69 on the level 44. We lead with Makuhita in order to burn a turn, but also buff Espeon. The Golduck will go for Psychic into Makuhita, while Espeon gets to Psychic the Ludicolo. I used a variant of this fight that is normally reserved for very low special attack IV. Typhlosions. However, because of the ranges here, I was not confident enough. So I played this very safe. Fire Blast into this Ludicolo would have been a 69% chance. But if you wait a turn here, you can Fire Blast Loudred instead. And the Fire Blast into Loudred is a 100% chance to kill. So I decided that I would rather Fire Blast Loudred than the Ludicolo if I have to use a Fire Blast here. Which I think was the correct play. Just for the sake of odds. Because as long as this hits, it's guaranteed to kill. And it hit. And then with Typhlosion, it doesn't matter what you use. Hidden Power will easily defeat Sudowoodo. Especially with this massive level gap we have. And now we're off to Dham 2. Dham has one lead that can kind of screw you over. And that lead is Claygon, Claydol, and Flygon. If Dham leads with Claydol and Flygon, they will both use Earthquake. So, you have a couple options in that situation. Unboosted Psychic is a 31% chance to kill Flygon. Unboosted Hidden Power is a 94% chance to kill Claydol. If I'm reading the chart correctly. Luckily, we didn't have to care because he led with Fortress. Fortress will pretty much always protect turn 1. I don't think there's been a time where it doesn't. So with Espeon, we Hidden Power the Whiscash, and we give Espeon a boost. Because Whiscash is going for Earthquake, Fortress wants to protect. Whiscash is guaranteed. And now we have the interesting situation of he sends out Flygon. +1 Psychic is guaranteed. It's not the 31% range we have to deal with if he leads with Flygon. Flame Wheel into Fortress is also guaranteed. However, there was the chance that he would go for a double protect. If he gets the double protect, I actually prefer that version of the fight and how this plays out. But because he didn't get the double protect, he has Claydol and Entei on the field at the same time. They're both going to go for attacks into Typhlosion. Theoretically. Which just means using Protect. But I personally prefer when he does a double Protect with Fortress, just because it means that Entei is alone, and I get to, like, I don't know. I don't have to worry about anything dumb happening in that case. Obviously, he goes for Shadow Rush anyway. I clicked double protect by accident, which is just a little bit slower than literally anything else I could have done. The thing that I worry about in that situation is if he decides to Fire Blast Espeon for some reason, or AI just decides to not do what it should do. I'm pretty sure this deep the AI is very predictable, and he will always Shadow Rush there, but I'm just... I don't trust Dham to be good. So yeah, we're going into a couple Cypher Peon fights. They're pretty straightforward. There's really nothing that happens in them. You use Psychic and you use Flame Wheel, like whatever. Psychic, Psybeam, whatever kills, and Flame Wheel. And then we have Venus 2 after that. I feel like there's nothing I can even say here. Delibird, Piloswine, like, what do I say about a Delibird and a Piloswine? They're dead. It's just how it is. And Glalie as well. Typhlosion is also in that range where it's... Even if we're leveling up, it's not close enough to level out of Blaze. It's not on that edge where I need to care about that. And then this trainer has Gloom, Jumpluff, and Sunflora, which, again, like... What are these Pokemon going to do to Espeon and Typhlosion? I have seen Sunflora's live Flame Wheel. This one is technically a 94%. And that's also potentially accounting for a level 45 Typhlosion or a level, God forbid, a level 46 at this point. But yeah, it's a range. It's not a range that you're likely to miss. And then psychic jump left kills. We only need 3 psychics for Venus, so I was just quickly double checking my count. Venus does have some unfortunate lead combinations that do result in either some bad ranges, needing to hit fire blasts on specific Pokemon to even win. I believe I played this fight in such a way that I was trying to avoid all of those situations. So by giving Espeon an X special on turn 1 and protecting with Typhlosion, Raichu and Blossom are both guaranteed to attack Typhlosion. I did not do this, okay. Because of this lead, I didn't do that, I think. But they are both guaranteed to attack Typhlosion, and if you protect with Typhlosion on turn 1 and X special with Espeon, you can avoid some things that are otherwise ranges. But I decided to go for this fight, where the only thing that can go wrong here is missing Fire Blast on Wigglytuff. So Psychic into Mischievous is a guaranteed kill. Fire Blast into Wigglytuff is guaranteed if it hits. And there's Suicune again. And a Fire Blast miss. And that is a dead Typhlosion. So I should have sent out Meditite here, but I sent out Umbreon instead. Meditite would have skipped gaining experience and thus a level. So I went for Psychic into Wigglytuff and gave Espeon another X special. I knew I had some extras. This is my last Psychic, but I know that +2 hidden power should kill Suicune. +1 was probably cutting it close. Shadow Rush from Suicune also does not kill Umbreon, but at the same time, it doesn't matter. So I was just hidden power, and I used this turn to revive Typhlosion. Splitting the experience on Espeon doesn't really matter at this point, and getting Typhlosion literally like anything is a much bigger deal. So it didn't lose all of the experience. It still got something from Suicune, but it did lose Wigglytuff experience, which, all things considered, is not the worst of what has happened to this Typhlosion. And now we have the Ein fight. So I messed this up a little bit here with these menus. This room is just really weird. You have to open the menu in a very specific spot to use the key items on these. So I just kind of don't go for it, but I tried anyway. I was too far right here. Angled too far right. So I used the elixirs on Espeon and Typhlosion to get our Psychics and Fire Blasts back. And then use all the ID cards that we have so far. Yeah, these spots are very precise for like no reason. And then we go over to Ein 2. The fact that we're not currently in Blaze isn't a huge deal, per se. Because Ein will always use Dig with Rhydon. Unless for some reason your Typhlosion just doesn't die to Dig, which is only really possible at full HP. And with like a very bulky Typhlosion, I'm pretty sure it will always use Dig if your Typhlosion is like damaged. If your Typhlosion is too healthy, I think it uses Toxic. I'm not exactly sure how it all plays out, but it's something like that. Yeah, using Revive there is technically optimal, but like... I menued up past it and went back down anyway, so it works out the same as just using the full heal. With all of Ain's Pokemon, except for the Starmie and the Raikou, you are using... Oh, I guess Rhydon. So you're using Psybeam on 2 of them, you're using Hidden Power on 2, and you're using Psychic on the Raikou. But otherwise, this fight is... It's won as soon as you enter it, basically. There's nothing that can go wrong at this point. So... the questionable choices are coming up after this fight. And there's a lot of mistakes in the next split that are really unfortunate when you add them all up together. And it's kind of a miracle that I managed to finish through it. Because I think Raikou, or not Raikou, Typhlosion is supposed to be level 47 around the time that it's either leaving this fight or it's getting ready for like partway into the next fight or like the fight after that. It should be around 47. Like it is a full level behind where it's supposed to be at this point in the run. Which you really hate to see. But I didn't really lose that much time to Ain 2. I'm pretty sure this split should have golded. If Fire Blast hit Wigglytuff, this split golded. Like I guarantee it. Not even 12 seconds. But I did mess up this next fight pretty badly. Because I wanted Typhlosion back in Blaze. Because it died on Venus, it was no longer in Blaze, and I very much do need it to be there for Gonzap. Was this the correct way of doing it? I don't entirely know for sure, but I do think this play was correct, just executed poorly because of Typhlosion's experience and a range that shouldn't have happened. So the Psychic into Masquerain and the Flame Wheel here into Ariados is guaranteed. And Hidden Power being a grass type means that you can pretty safely use it into Typhlosion for a little bit of chip damage to go into Blaze. It's not going to do incredible damage, and Heracross being the last Pokemon, Blaze Flame Wheel into Heracross seems like a pretty reasonable move to me, generally, and I think most people would probably feel the same. But I don't have the exact calc in front of me for what we have. Hidden Power Flame Wheel. That is Blaze. Comfortably Blaze. And Flame Wheel does not kill. And that is a Typhlosion death. Again. And again, I should have sent out Metatite, but we go for just a Hidden Power, and we use the Revive, and don't menu down and hit Makuhita with it. Which means we only have the one Revive left for Typhlosion. And that is no backup revives. Technically, I do buy extra revives than the route accounts for when I can afford them, but that is still not in a good spot. Also, not being in Blaze for this fight led to a very awkward situation. This fight in general does not play out normal. Because I don't have Blaze, therefore many things go wrong here. I'll just say that. I play it out the way it's intended to be. Flame Wheel, Nuzleaf, Hidden Power, Graveler. It doesn't matter. They do protect on Graveler and then fake out Typhlosion. AI is smart like that. So sometimes the Graveler here goes for a double protect. And it got it. This is where I kind of misplayed a little bit. Because Graveler and Hariyama is a very awkward position. I protected on Typhlosion in case of... I double protected, actually. Because Hariyama is going to go for Fake Out anyway. But I didn't know who it was going to go into. And Graveler went for Rock Throw. Fake Out into Typhlosion would have been fine. But I wasn't confident that's what would happen. So I Hidden Power the Graveler. And I don't have the calc in the spreadsheet, but at this point I'm kind of just hoping. I know Hariyama is going to do Arm Thrust. And kind of just hoping I get a low enough number of hits and it doesn't do too much damage. Because Lombre goes for Fake Out here, which I know is going to hit Espeon. It has to hit Espeon. So the dig there doesn't really like do anything. If anything, it was a poor play on my part. But we get one Arm Thrust. The second one crits, but it stops there. So we have Blaze. Fire Blast into Lombre. At this point I'm looking and saying this is a guaranteed kill. And psyching into Hariyama. This is probably the worst Clest fight I think I could have imagined. I don't even think I could have imagined something this bad, but all four of his Pokemon have Fake Out. There's a lot of Protect. It is very awkward to play around if things don't go as planned. Which, in this case, because of a double Protect from Graveler, it didn't really go as planned. So, that easily lost around a minute. The Gonzap fight, there isn't really anything that can go wrong. But between Clest and Dioj there, we lost a good chunk of time. A chunk of time that... on a good run, on average, you get that time back pretty easily. But that's also true for a lot of time loss in this run, where typically with like good to average RNG, you can probably make up for most of this for free. This just happened to be the last day of the month that I was streaming. And I wasn't planning on doing a bonus day of Colosseum runs if I got a PB that I was like happy enough with All I really needed was a run that got to the end and won without whiting out to any fights. And that's what we have. Unfortunately, a lot of Fire Blast misses and a lot of the mistakes being minor, but having a lot of fallout, I guess. Like a lot of major time loss because of minor mistakes. But overall, I think most of the time loss is still due to RNG, more so than mistakes that I made in my decisions. This lead in particular is very good. Flame Wheel is guaranteed to kill Shift Tree. Hidden Power is guaranteed on Crawdaunt. And then his next two Pokemon are Pinsir and Hariyama. Gonzap's Hariyama does not have Fake Out, and will die to Psychic for free. Pinsir will die to Flame Wheel for free. Of course, these Flame Wheels require Blaze. Every Flame Wheel that I use here requires Blaze. If you do not have Blaze, all of these Flame Wheels need to be Fire Blasts, which is the important part. It is the important distinguishing factor that if you do not have Blaze, you need to Fire Blast these fights. And we don't have enough Fire Blasts for the rest of the game. So if I recall here, I might check like how many Fire Blasts I have before using Flame Wheel on Skarmory. We'll see. No, I don't. Okay. I have one elixir left. I probably use it on Espeon. Unless I've done like mental math to be like, oh, I've only used like Fire Blast this many times. It's fine, it's fine, it's fine. Yes, we lost about a minute and a half to not even Gonzap, but the two fights before him. Which is pretty unfortunate, but kind of, it just happens. And here we do one final menu before the final gauntlet. I need to put Makuhita up front because Makuhita needs to be in front for Nascor and for Evis. So we heal up on Espeon and Typhlosion. We elixir on the Espeon to make sure it has enough Psychic PP to get through the final gauntlet. And we teach Earthquake to Typhlosion over Dig. Because there is exactly one Earthquake that we need to use in this final gauntlet. So normally you would be leading with Espeon and Typhlosion, but because Makuhita is alive, I need Makuhita to be killed in this first fight. Which is a little bit of a time loss, but it's not that big of a deal. This first fight is very much Espeon-centric, and as long as the Makuhita dies on turn 1, we can get Typhlosion in for a Fire Blast on turn 2, as it's normally going to be using anyway. So we have, I believe, like 6 X specials left right now. 6 or 7. Yeah, 7 at the moment. 2 get used on Nascor, 1 gets used here, 2 get used on Evis. I think optionally a 3rd gets used on Evis, depending on how the fight goes. But We have more than enough for the end of the game. Out comes Zangoose. The Porygon 2 uses Psybeam into Makuhita, getting rid of it as we needed. This is the first of, I believe, 3 Fire Blasts in this little minor gauntlet before the final bosses. Fire Blast into Zangoose and Psychic into Porygon 2. A little bit of fumbling in the menus, just as long as no misclicks happen, I was like, fine. Just on edge because trying to get this run in before the end of the month and wanting it to finish. Even if it's not it's not the run that I would have liked to have finished with this time, but it is a run that is well enough executed and shows some pretty bad RNG that I was able to sort of play around. And it shows that I feel like it shows that I knew enough about the run to not make mistakes with reviving early or splitting experience poorly. I knew the experience route, and that's kind of the most important part. This fight has an optional Fire Blast on top of the mandatory one. I decided not to go for it. I did have enough PP to do so, but that meant that I couldn't miss Fire Blasts elsewhere. And most of these little gauntlet fights are not that big of a deal. Absol is guaranteed to use Swords Dance on turn 1 anyway, so I just went for Flame Wheel. Fire Blast, let me look at this. Fire Blast is a 94% without Blaze on Absol, so it could kill, but also it could miss, and then I would need to be perfect on Fire Blast from then on. So, Hidden Power finishes off Absol's remaining HP. And then the Fire Blast into the Mightyena is actually guaranteed if it hits. Which it does. And we go into the third fight of this gauntlet. So the beauty of this third fight, we get to take advantage once again, like always, like we've done multiple times now, of the replacement Pokemon coming in immediately. So Espeon is going to use Psychic onto Torkoal, which is a guaranteed kill, and Typhlosion is going to click Earthquake. Her 3 Pokemon are all fire types, Houndoom, Torkoal, and Magcargo. Magcargo is a guaranteed kill with Earthquake all the time, 4 times effective, even with spread and everything else accounting for less damage overall. It's guaranteed. Even with this weak of a Typhlosion, it's guaranteed. The Houndoom can live. The Houndoom very often survives. Very, very rarely does Earthquake kill Houndoom. But Hidden Power will finish off Houndoom. And Houndoom is guaranteed simply to Howl on turn 1 as far as I'm aware. I've never seen it do anything else. So hidden power to kill, and we use a turn here with Typhlosion to heal Espeon up to full. The healing Espeon to full there is... I feel like it doesn't matter. It's definitely written into the route for a reason, but I do feel like it would need... You would need to have a drastically terrible fight on the 4th here. Something would have to go terribly wrong, basically. Maybe with the Credilli lead, it could happen. But I got a lead here that I had not seen in the entire month that I've been playing this game. So Tropius always comes out turn 1, but the other Pokemon can be any of Cradilli, Vileplume, and Cacturne. I have never seen Cacturne lead before this, so I was not ready for like how to properly deal with this. But Protect on Espeon does make sense as the option that you would take. And you go for Fire Blast into Tropius because Tropius is going to fly. And fly is so slow. But the Fire Blast is guaranteed even without the crit. Like, it's fine. So, the rest of the Pokemon here are not that big of a deal. Vileplume dies to a Psychic. Cacturne dies to a Flame Wheel. And then by doubling into Cradilli, it goes down just as easily. And then we will have the final fights where it feels like the way that they're written, it should be fairly straightforward. However, there are numerous places for it to go wrong. Mostly on part of either misreading, misclicking something. You cannot afford a single misinput on these final 2 fights. They are very, very specific. And very, very difficult just to play around. These teams are very strong for doubles. Very, very complex teams as far as Gen 3 goes. NASCAR's 6 Pokemon are Walrein, Gardevoir, Xatu, Dusclops, Blaziken, and Metagross. Metagross is his shadow Pokemon. He will always end with it. But his lead combination among the other 5, he can use any of them. So finding the exact lead combination in the notes is very important. And then accounting for how he plays on each turn also matters. He can start with X specials of his own. So we start by boosting Espeon twice. Because Xatu and Walrein are going to double into the Makuhita slot. So we are going to sack Makuhita and also Metatite immediately. Before going into Typhlosion for the remainder of the fight. Now, this is a scary position for Typhlosion, so we protect. The Psychic onto Walrein is guaranteed, but Xatu is going to go for Confuse Ray into the Typhlosion slot. A Fire Blast into into Xatu would kill it. However, we don't want him to double switch in Pokemon on that turn, so we delay a little bit and try and Fire Blast on the next turn. For Nazcore to send in Dusclops here. And Fire Blast misses. So Xatu gets off a Confuse Ray into Typhlosion. So, protect again, because taking damage from Xatu would be dangerous. Break through Confusion on that turn. Get the protect off. Psychic into Dusclops. This is all very, very on the fly, figuring out, trying to think of like what is the best play. Gardevoir is supposed to go down to a double Fire Blast, so I try one, and Psychic Xatu, which is a guaranteed kill. In hindsight here, I could have Fire Blasted the Xatu slot because that's where Metagross is coming in. You'll see it doesn't really necessarily matter. Because Typhlosion hits itself in Confusion. And Gardevoir targets Typhlosion with a Psychic, putting it in Blaze. Because of that, Flame Wheel has an 81% chance to kill Metagross. Fire Blast is an 80% chance to hit. So I go for a Flame Wheel. 1% higher chances if it breaks through Confusion. Crits Metagross. Gardevoir goes for the kill into Typhlosion, but at this point Nazcore is already defeated. One more Psychic from Espeon will take down Gardevoir. Slow win, missed a Fire Blast, hit self in Confusion. Just all around not a great fight for Typhlosion there. Umbreon also gains a lot of experience here. So, easily lost about a minute to Nazcore. If not more. A minute and a half on the split itself. I would assume most of that is to Nazcore himself. And finally, we have Evis. Evis, like Nazcore, has one Shadow Pokemon in Tyranitar, and 5 other Pokemon that he can lead with. Salamence, Slaking, Scizor, Machamp, and Slowking. All of them can be in the lead positions. I think this lead in particular is one of his scary ones. Salamence and Scizor. Evis can choose to use X attacks on turn 1 to buff both of his Pokemon. So we're gonna kind of go for the same strat here. And sack Makuhita and Metatite immediately. So, 2 X specials on Espeon. He doesn't go for the X attacks. Instead, he goes for Aerial Ace into Makuhita. And he will go for Silver Wind with Scizor. Silver Wind could give an Omni boost to Scizor. Thankfully, being Bug Steel, that doesn't really matter too much. It would matter for the sake of speed. But Espeon would outspeed regardless. And I believe Typhlosion would as well. According to my chart, it would, yeah. This Typhlosion would guaranteed outspeed even with Silver Wind boost on Scizor, so we go for Psychic and Flame Wheel. Flame Wheel into Scizor is the freest kill in the world. Scizor is not especially bulky Pokemon and is quad weak to fire, as I'm sure most people are aware. So he goes into, I believe it's Machamp and Slowking. Yeah. So we are going for a third X special on Espeon this turn. And killing Machamp with Psychic. I don't think the third X special matters as far as this fight goes, but no, it does a little bit. Water Pulse into Typhlosion can confuse. Thankfully it doesn't. But it does put Typhlosion in Blaze, which doesn't really matter. We're going to Protect and Hidden Power Slowking. I believe the third X special is for this Hidden Power into Slowking to kill. I think with 2 it's not guaranteed. And out comes Tyranitar, right into the Slayking's Earthquake. This is a little sketchy because Earthquake from Slaking could potentially crit Espeon, but because it's Slaking, we're pretty safe overall. It would just be really slow. This is a one fight at this point. You just have to wait for Sandstreams. Because we killed the Slowking, it wasn't able to skill swap Slaking around, which is a strat that Evis goes for. So Flame Wheel into T-Tar, Psychic Slaking, fight's over. If the Earthquake crit Espeon, we would still Flame Wheel the T-Tar as normal, and then we would probably alternate Protect and like Fire Blast or something until we kill the Slaking. Thankfully, it didn't come down to that. But that's Colosseum any percent. The time will end in about another like minute-ish after the fight. We have to match through. You do match through text, and you do basically wait for the black screen before credits is pretty typical for Pokemon speedruns in English to end on. Usually it's like before Hall of Fame or at end of Hall of Fame kind of stuff. This is just simply the black frame before credits. This was a very stressful speedrun. The execution itself was not particularly difficult, but it takes a lot of knowledge to run this game efficiently. And it also takes a lot of luck. So if you liked this explanation and this walkthrough of this PB, feel free to let me know, like, comment, etc. That's appreciated. We're not done yet. This is the second game. There are 10 more to go. 10 more different speedruns for 2024. And that was Pokemon Colosseum. Thank you for watching what was easily one of the most stressful, month-long grinds that I probably could have put myself through in terms of just RNG. I hope you all enjoyed. Have a good one. And I will see you again when I upload the next PB, hopefully. Goodbye, YouTube.